Boy, you got through this packet. You gotta help me, Christy, when it comes to the river crossing. Could you
Call to order the special meeting of the Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission. Today is February the 25th. We begin our commission meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, which tonight will be led by Christy Jordan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name is Denise Domke. I'm the chair of the Arts Commission, and it's a pleasure to welcome, this is our first commission meeting of 2019, so it's a pleasure to welcome, to say hello again to old friends and to welcome new commissioners to the dais. So we begin with introductions. If you'd introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself.
My name is Alicia Olson. I am an architect and I work and live here in West Sacramento.
Great, welcome.
Alfonso Voiches, and I live here in West Sacramento for the past 15 years now, and I serve as president on the West Sacramento Historical Society, and I work for insurance in AAA. That's my 9 to 5.
Don Schatzel, lived here since 1991. I have virtually no artistic talent whatsoever, but I am in awe of everybody who does. And I've lived, like I said, in this community since '92. It was interesting to me how the mayor, when he was explaining some of the criteria if you're being selected to the commission, he was looking for people involved in the community, people who had a relationship with some of the people on staff, and was hoping commissioners could be a link between the community and City Hall, and I hope to be able to help him with that goal. So thank you.
Great, thank you. My name's Denise Domke. I'm the CEO of the West Sacramento Chamber of Commerce. I also live in West Sacramento. It's been my pleasure to serve on this commission since its inception, seeing lots of exciting things happening, and look forward to continuing all that excitement.
Good evening, Julia McMichael. I am a resident of West Sacramento since 1992. I spent a long career in marketing and consulting for museums like the Museum of Contemporary Art, Science Museum of Minnesota, and locally with the Crocker, and with SMAC in years gone by. So I'm very privileged to be a member of this commission. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christy Jordan. I'm a lifelong West Sacramento resident, third generation Broderick girl, and I spend my free time doing volunteer work for youth arts organizations, Chalk It Up in Sacramento, and the River City High School Music Boosters.
Hi, I'm Melinda Garcia. I've been a resident since 1990. Currently stay-at-home mom, very involved in my daughter's school at Riverbank Elementary, fellow Broderick girl here myself. And this is my first year doing anything like this whatsoever, and I'm looking forward to it.
Great, thank you all so much, and welcome to all of you again to the commission. Item 1C, selection of commission chair and vice chair.
Commissioner Domke, we actually need to get through 1A, the oath first.
Oh, my goodness.
And Katie can read the oath.
Yep, there it is.
First, I'll call roll, and then I'll go into the oath. Okay, so just say present if you're here. Commissioner Domke.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Jordan.
Present.
Commissioner Clower. Commissioner McMichael.
Present.
Commissioner Schatzel.
Here.
Commissioner Voiches.
Here.
And Commissioner Olson.
Present.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, we'll do the oath of allegiance. So if you'll all stand and raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Denise Domke,
Do solemnly swear
Do
solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will take this obligation freely
that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. And now, Section 1C, select the section I was so anxious to get to, the selection of Commission Chair and Vice Chair. We'll begin with Commission Chair. We'll need a motion, a second, and then we'll take a vote, and then we'll move to the Vice Chair. So nominations.
For chair, I would like to nominate Christy Jordan.
I'll second that nomination. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? So passed. And then the selection of Commission Vice Chair. I'd like to nominate Julia McMichael.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? So moved. Now we're going to shift. No, Christy has long legs. Christy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all for your vote of confidence. I'll attempt to be organized. So on to item 1D, is that correct? Tracy? Presentations by the, oh. Thank you. Presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the commission. The commission is prohibited by law from discussing issues not on the agenda brought to them at this time. And we have one request to speak from Matthew Hargrove. Hi, Matt.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, first of all, I want to congratulate you, Madam Chair, on your election. I want to be the first to congratulate you. I can't tell you how much that pleases me. I've known Christy and her family almost my whole life, so that's really neat to be here. I'm here tonight under your mission as preserving historical and cultural heritage of the city. My name is Matthew Hargrove. I'm a lifelong, I was raised here in West Sacramento. I'm on the Parks Commission, but I'm here as just a citizen who started a passion project last year. This project started supporting a woman named Peggy Bell, who puts together the neighborhood picnic every year. And last year, as she was putting together that picnic, she asked if there was a map of the different neighborhoods in West Sacramento, because she wanted to put what neighborhood you came from on your name tag so folks would get a sense of where you were from. We quickly found out that there were lots of maps out there, but none of them really talking about kind of the unofficial names of the neighborhoods. There were some maps out there with official names of neighborhoods if they've been designated as such by the city, but as you all know, there's lots of areas that we as residents call them that aren't showing up on official maps. This town has almost doubled in a generation. Since Don came here in 1992, we are more than twice the size. That means that there's a lot of newcomers who have come to our city. And, 20 years ago, I still consider you a newcomer. But even if you came 20 years ago, you might not know all the historical names of neighborhoods out there that are outside of the neighborhood you're in. The other flip side of that is if you're an old timer, now I'm an old timer, Christy's an old timer, there might be some old timers that don't know some of the new names that are popping up out there. There's lots of new neighborhoods that have been built in Southport that if you don't live in Southport, or even if you do, you might not know what they're being called. So this map is not meant to be a historical map. Historical maps are the domain of Alfonso and Don at the Historical Society. This isn't meant to capture every single name that's ever existed in the city of West Sacramento. What this map is meant is to provide a common language for those of us living here now, for a common sense of place. So if somebody says, I live in Westfield, you'll at least have a general idea of what part of the city that is in. It's meant to save some traditional names that are starting to fall out of common usage just because of growth and kids that don't know them. And it's meant to help to provide a common sense of place for all of our residents. That's what this map is. I've spent almost the last year vetting it with friends and family, and I'm now bringing it to other entities within the city. I met with Don and Mickey last week to go over the map, because really what I'm trying to do is get input on this map. I don't want something out there representing itself as the place names of West Sacramento without having a lot of input from a lot of people, because you all know if we're missing something or if I get something wrong, then someone might not have ownership of this map. And really what we want to do is have as many people look at it and say, yeah, that's right. Maybe it's missing a couple things, but those were just things I remember as a kid and maybe don't need to be on here. The things that we're trying to put on this map again are those things with common names, common neighborhood names, and significant place names. So like with parks, we didn't put every single park on here. We put some of the major parks on here because this isn't a map just for parks. So this is a map for, I found out through this process that there were some people who grew up in Southport that didn't understand or didn't consider Southport being everything south of the port. They considered Southport being in the neighborhood area where they grew up in. And it was fun talking to folks and seeing that realization of saying, oh, yes, I guess you're right. It is that entire big area there, and it's not just the girl named streets where I grew up. So I don't have any ask for you tonight. I'm just presenting this to you FYI as I'm going around vetting it with the city and with you as commissioners. And I hope if you have input, you'll give it to me. We plan on finalizing this. I don't think this will ever be final, but printing out copies of it and providing it at the neighborhood picnic that will happen. We just got a date today from Parks. That'll be at Memorial Park on May 19th, and we hope to see you all there. We'll have a big version of these, and then we'll have a stack of them to give out to folks, and we hope they'll come under common usage. So thank you very much for your time, and appreciate your attentiveness. Thank you, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for bringing that to us tonight. Presentations. Presentation by the West Sacramento Art Guild. Oh.
Come back.
Can I go back to that? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Huh? No, we're good. Thank you.
Good evening. Back to Matthew's points.
You want to turn your mic on at the base of the mic there. You should push the button.
On the top of the desk, see the little, is it green?
There it is. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Connie.
My name is Judy Martinez, and I am the Vice President of the West Sacramento Art Guild. Unfortunately, our president, Patty Callahan, could not be here this evening due to bereavement. I've been here a long time. I think Matthew was in Cub Scouts with my grandson. Yeah. And I grew up, first lived in Westfield Village, and then high school I was in the States Streets, and then married my husband, who was across the tracks, so I lived in Bright for 2 years, and then we bought a home in Elkhorn Village, which is Broderick, and then moved around there a few times, and then we now live in the Oaks. So yes, this city has a lot of our little hometown names that I know of in the last 65 years. So I always say, and that's my cute husband up on the wall, I know all of you are here volunteering your time to preserve the dignity of our little town. And I know it's a thankless job, but we want you to know that we do appreciate you. I understand you have a very large agenda tonight, and so I'm only going to take a few moments to say thank you and to update you on the progress of the West Sacramento Art Guild. We came before you just last year, and we've made such progress. However, we're not new. We originated, I believe the incorporation was when the city incorporated, about 1987. It's gone up and down. People get old, they leave, they get tired, so on and so forth, and we try to regenerate. We're now at that point where we have so much talent in this town, and we haven't been able to reach them all. Through the generosity of the community center here, and under the leadership, let me see, where am I here? Of, well, Tracy, Michael, Mrs. Connie Leak, and her wonderful staff, Sam and Kira, have been wonderful in helping us, and they have made our life much easier in just feeling at home in the community center. At our last meeting on Thursday evening, we had a lively discussion on what you have done for us, and everybody participated and gave their thoughts and ideas on where we've come. And just this past year, when we first started my group 2 years ago, I think we had maybe 6, 8, 10, and not all of those were active participants at the time. Not saying that it wasn't active at other times. They've had Crocker Art Guild here, and I think Denise was involved with the community parade and the big, there's a big art show and so forth. We'd like to be able to do that at some point, obviously. There's lots of things, but I'm not here to ask you for anything tonight. We're here to thank you. We would like to thank you for the community center wall and the art hanging system in the entrance lobby, right there by Lenice's, where we get to display fresh art every month. For providing Gallery 1075 to us for the month of June's annual West Sacramento Art Guild show, and a reception where our best artwork is on view for the public. Our reception is always a fun evening where we get to mingle with the community and talk art. This year, you are invited, and we hope you can attend. It will be on June 20th, and it's from 4 to 7:30, an open house type. Just come over after work. And thank you for publicly promoting this event for us. We also want to thank you for the opportunity to teach classes to the senior citizens. One of our members, Alan LaRosa, is a great cartoonist, and he's planning on teaching those to draw caricatures. Thank you for collaborating with artist Carol Hawkins, who was one of our original presidents many years ago, as was Alan, and her committee, who will be working with your special needs program and offering help with an art project and enter them in the Yolo County Fair. Thank you for including the Guild to participate with the fall Art in the Heart Sidewalk Chalk event with Jean Hagan Santiago, who's here. We've got Jeannie and we've got TJ and supporting me here in the Art Guild. She helped with the Art in the Heart Sidewalk Chalk Art event, and helped instruct. Thank you for the monetary help from the 444 grant to develop our website. You can find us at www.westsacramentoartguild.com and other promotional materials to help let people know we are a vital and active guild. Thank you for providing a contract to hold a paint day for the public and assisting with the promotion, registration, and location. The first paint day will be Saturday, March 23rd, from 1 to 3. It is a fundraiser for scholarships for 2 River City High School students. We are also offering our wall at Lebu. I hope you've all enjoyed the artwork at Lebu. And that also changes once a month. And we are going to offer that to the high school students and let them hang their art. Hopefully, the month of April, they'll be able to do this. So that's really given a lot of help to our youth in promoting the art in our city. And last, but certainly not least, thank you. With your help and your support, the West Sacramento Art Guild has grown 300%. Thank you. Any questions?
I have just one, and I don't remember if you said it. Could you, for the record, could you, when are your regular meetings?
I'm sorry, yes.
What time are your regular meetings? What does membership cost for the Art Guild?
Thank you. I should have had that on there. Yes, we meet the third Thursday of each month, and we meet at the community center. We've kind of grown from the little lobby there. We've got the big room now, and it's really great. And we start at 6 o'clock because we need to be out at 8 o'clock on Thursday evening. So that's worked out really well for us. And we've got some lively meetings. As a matter of fact, one of our members, Don Pedersen, who is actually expert on social media, gave a demonstration, and we got to use the screen, and we did a great demonstration for those who want to know just how to use Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and so on and so forth. So, yeah, we have some really good meetings, and everyone is welcome, and it's only $20 a year. Now, if someone would like to sponsor us and just send money, our treasury's open. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Go ahead.
Judy, I just want to say I'm glad to hear from you. I'm glad you're back. And I'm glad the group is back. Before I started to work here, I was told just below the surface in West Sacramento is a really strong art community. Once you get past the sports,
Yeah.
there's a lot of really good artists in town. And looking at the rest of the agenda and some of the conversations we've had here at the commission, I think we've all talked about at some point finding a way to get West Sacramento resident artists, talented people in West Sac to be more upfront, more vocal, more
Visible.
involved. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. So hopefully everything you just said is sort of getting us back in that direction or where you were a few years ago. So I'm happy to hear about your club, about your group.
Yeah, I think so. I wasn't going to ask for anything, but yeah, we do have our goals and our dreams, and we're hoping to go before the city council and see if we can further find some space and some walls and some support, and yeah, let people know just who's here and the beautiful talent that we have. And we're also going to be asking to even show some art here at City Hall, and if we need a jury, I think you would probably be the ones to do that. I'm not sure. That's on Connie's agenda. And I can't say enough about that lady. She's just awesome. She's helped us so much. And it's wonderful just to see these familiar faces. And, this is why we love West Sac and why we're all here generation after generation after generation. Thank you so much again. And
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you so much. My apologies. We're going to go back to 1E, Commission Communications, and I need some guidance on what that means.
It's an opportunity for commission members to share with each other. If you come across something that's pertinent, actually, Don Schatzel has a really good example today of something he wants to share, communication he received, and I'll let him share that next. But you might also be on a subcommittee and give a little update, or, so it's just commission communication, something you want to share at the beginning.
Okay.
Very short. A lot of times someone will say, no, I don't have anything, but sometimes commissioners have something that they want to let the other commissioners know where that's at, or something. So that's kind of the opportunity.
All right,
And Don
thank you.
Schatzel has a great example already today. He's ready.
Well, let's let Dawn get started. Thanks, Dawn. Thank you, Connie.
I thought our original, our first meeting was actually going to be in January, but, so now it's March, and that's okay. But I've gone to like many of us, gone to the fair for years and years. And in the fair in Woodland, at the Yolo County Fair, they have a section where kids can submit art that's done in a classroom or done in a preschool or whatever they want to do, and it's free. They just have to follow some guidelines. And having gone to the fair for years, and I go, and year after year after year, what I see is entries from Southport School. And I thought, with all the other schools in town, how can we maybe find a way to get the other schools involved? It doesn't cost any money. It's can be a little awkward because you have to get the art to the fair and then the fair bring it back. It can be a little awkward. But then all the entries are hung up because, of course, the fair, you hang up kids' art, the parents are going to show up, they're going to go to the fair. That's what they want to do, which, of course, is great.
Don, just to clarify,
Yeah.
you're talking about the Yolo County Fair.
Yeah, the Yolo County Fair. And so there is a website. I wanted to bring this to the commission agenda in case you have any children in school, and maybe you can talk your child's teacher into looking into this. I did ask the folks at the fair, well, do you mail out letters? How do they know? And they said, no, it's all about word of mouth. So here's word of mouth. Okay. And Connie suggested that I share with you the webpage that you can get the details for anybody interested. It's www.yolocountyfair.net. And I understand Connie and staff have looked into this and got more up-to-date guidelines to look into it, see how it might fit into their programs, which would be terrific. Again, it doesn't cost anything, and kids. I mean, it would be great. The kids go and they get little ribbons and stuff on their artwork, and I thought it would just be a good way to let everybody know to support the fair through that particular program. So, thanks.
Thank you, Dawn. Should we go down the line? Any other commissioners have something they'd like to share?
I do not.
Commissioner Jordan, tomorrow is the readathon, the National Readathon, and I'll be reading all day and Saturday, and it's a good opportunity. Unfortunately, none of the West Sacramento schools participate, but maybe next year.
That is disappointing. Well, you have a beautiful voice, too. I would love to be read to by you. I'm just saying. Any other? No? I think we all received a lovely thank you note from,
I'm
yes, go
not
ahead.
sure if this is really the right place or time to mention it, but
Give it a shot.
I have a little, hopefully it's on its way to it. It's a nonprofit kind of thing, but I don't know if anybody's heard, maybe around the Facebook pages, that I'm starting to collect college T-shirts for kids. So far, since September, I've collected, I want to say about 90 T-shirts now to be
wow.
given away to, I'm just starting with my daughter's school, and hopefully it'll go across to other schools. So if y'all have some college T-shirts laying around, I will gladly take them. These students do earn these these shirts by, I think so far they're competing in trivia questions about the college of the month that they're studying. In the schools, they're doing, I'm not sure if it's every school that's doing it every Wednesday, College Wear Wednesdays. At first, they were doing it once a month, and I think they're doing it once every 2 months. And like I said, I'm the only one so far that's collecting the college T-shirts. I was featured on Channel 10 once, back in September. It's kind of taken a slowdown, if you will, because of the holidays and other things going on. But I'm also looking for any input that anybody might have to get it out there more. I've done as much as I can as far as networking on Facebook and friends and family. I think they're getting kind of tired of me, keep asking, but I also have people donating to me in Davis at one of the market stands that I work at too.
Wonderful.
So if anybody has any ideas, I'm all open to them, or if you have any college t-shirts, please bring them my way. Gently used college t-shirts from anywhere, even the military academies as well. So, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Melinda. We want to thank Judy and the Arts Guild for bringing us the beautiful thank you cards. And I think, Denise, mine is still down by you. But if everybody wants to hold up, look at how beautiful this is. A photograph of one of their works of art, and then handwritten. I mean, when's the last time you received a handwritten thank you card? Not enough. So Judy, thank you so much for bringing this to all of us. We appreciate that. And am I moving on to item number 3 under presentations? So presentation on the I Street Bridge Lantern Festival. Ms. Yancey? Thank you.
Just waiting for my PowerPoint to upload. There we are. Good evening, Commissioners. Congratulations on those of you that are your new appointments this evening. I'm really looking forward to presenting this opportunity to have a public event and have public engagement related to the project. So I'm Katie Yancey. I'm the Community Investment Manager in the Economic Development and Housing Department. A lot of the work that we do is to revitalize the riverfront, and so this is a unique opportunity to ensure that we protect one of our historic assets, the I Street Bridge, and that we continue to have the site be used as we add in new features into our waterfront. Could you, please? It's not working. Thank you. So this is all tied to 2 projects that are going on right now, which is the I Street Bridge Replacement Project. That project will construct a new bridge that will connect the Washington neighborhood to the rail yards neighborhood. It is being funded primarily by Caltrans, and it's being done under the leadership of the City of Sacramento, although we are a joint partner under a responsible agency. And this will greatly enhance the bike, pedestrian, automobile connections between our 2 riverfront districts. Next slide, please. As part of that, the city also looked at what would happen to the upper deck. So since we're going to be disconnecting automobile users from the upper deck, the city wanted to maintain that connection to downtown with the I Street Bridge and preserve that upper deck. When the upper decks are not preserved, there can be abandonment and nuisance issues, so we wanted to really make sure that that connection stays alive. For us, these 2 projects are linked. When the viaduct comes down from the existing bridge and the new viaduct goes in for the new bridge, we lose our rights to access that upper deck. So that's why these projects are being run in tandem by the City of West Sacramento. Next slide, please. So we're in the process of completing a feasibility study. That feasibility study that will be done on the upper deck, and that's a beautiful rendering that you can see there for what will be included in the feasibility study that shows the potential for parklet features on the upper deck. That'll be completed in March, and so we have our last public engagement opportunity to bring all these beautiful renderings and all these opportunities out to the public. And so that's what this Lantern Festival is an opportunity to get that grassroots movement that we need to preserve this beautiful feature. Next slide, please. So we looked at, as part of this, I thought you'd be interested in seeing, we've looked at not only what happens on the upper deck, but as well as how we're connecting to that feature. And so I bring this to your attention because we have to construct one of these connections, whether it's the switchback ramp or the circular ramp. We have to connect that before that viaduct structure comes down in order to preserve our rights. So as you can see, it all comes down to costs, and we're looking at about $3 million right out the chute to protect our rights. We have to do some minimum safety improvements to the upper deck. There's some issues with the joints, and there's some issues with the railing and the sidewalk improvements, et cetera, that need to be done. And then we need to be bringing on at least a staircase in order to protect our rights. So we're probably looking at out the chute about a $3 million project to just protect our rights in the next couple of years, because the I Street Bridge Replacement Project is scheduled to commence construction sometime in 2022, 2023. Next slide, please. So in order to reach out to the public and share all this information, and we're coming to you this evening, as Commissioner Schatzel said, is to ask you to be ambassadors for this event that we're having and ambassadors for this project. On the evening of March 23rd, we're going to be holding a Lantern Festival sort of parade. It'll give people the opportunity to walk on the upper deck of the I Street Bridge. We're shutting it down for automobile traffic, and we're going to be creating custom one-of-a-kind lanterns for people to carry. They'll be lit by little LED battery lights, and we're having 2 workshops that are going to be run by staff from UC Davis and Sacramento State University, so that we can stay culturally appropriate. Because we also, in addition to having this be a community outreach, we want to really pay homage to the Chinese culture and their role in our community, as well as in building out the railroad. And this is a railroad bridge as part of our main line. It's the 7th busiest, transit-oriented corridor. So we really wanted to pay homage to that as well. So please encourage people to come to our March 2nd workshop. That's from 11 to 4 at our community center across the street. And if they can't make it, please have them go to the City of Sacramento's workshop, and that's from 2 to 7 on the 9th. Next slide, please. So we're going to light the upper deck with lanterns, and we will be able to make sure that if the bridge in an emergency has to open, that the lanterns will actually work. Okay, next slide, please. And it'll start here. So we're shutting down C Street and 2nd Street so that we can have a sort of a bazaar of tables and food trucks and performance venues. And we're going to be doing outreach not only for this project, but for the Washington specific plan update, which you're going to be receiving a presentation that will be incorporated into that later this evening. And then we're also going to be having another lantern making station in case somebody can't make it to our 2 other workshops. Next slide, please. And we'll walk across the bridge from that location. And we're still working with the City of Sacramento on where the ending spot will be. We'll either end on their section of the upper deck and then walk back, or we will end up in off 4th Street in the traditional Chinese Plaza. Next slide, please. Oh, next slide, I think. Go one more. There we go. Where we'll have, if we end up with that as our location, we'll have one more opportunity to share with the public what's happening related to this project. And then we'll also have light refreshments and food trucks there as well. So, and then hopefully, this is all being sorted out, we will also have a performance at this location as well. So I just wanted to share that all with you all, and hopefully you will use your channels and get people to come and give us feedback on this project, because although it is in Washington, it affects the whole sub-region, and we want to make sure that we get people from Southport and people from Sacramento and people from the north side of the city coming and supporting this project. So thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Katie, well, I have one question.
Oh, of course,
So there are
yes.
activities on both sides of the river?
Right now-
Ours are determined, theirs are yet to be determined?
Yet to be determined. There will definitely be activities on our side of the river, but as we're working through, we still haven't gotten our special event permit from the City of Sacramento. We're working through a few minor issues with our traffic control study, which will depend on where the site ends, where the festival parade ends.
And what would be a successful event? What's your goal? In
Oh,
your mind, if there were 300 people, 200
That was,
people,
you read my mind. That was the number that I was going to say. If we get 300 people there and we get a lot of the elementary schools involved, both on our side and their side, so that they can have an opportunity to come to these workshops and build these lanterns and really begin to see, I think, civic duty in action would be fantastic. So I think, if we could get people inspired by this project and inspired by the cultural richness that we have in our community, that would be my ideal outcome.
And you're partnering with Washington Unified School District?
We are in the process of having those conversations with Washington Unified School District. Yes, we have some flyers that we're hoping to bring to the elementary schools.
Thank you. Go ahead.
You mentioned $2 to $3 million.
Yes, that's
But not for the lanterns, I understand that part, but is that just West Sac's portion of potentially the entire feasibility study, or?
No, it's actually the portion that we need to pay for just to preserve our rights. So there, we're trying to take a phased approach. I think we all recognize that resources are scarce. And so we're in a position where in the very near term, we need to make the upper deck improvements to allow the public on there and at least install some public access to the upper deck before the viaduct structures come down, which they are required to do with the new replacement bridge project. So that $3 million would protect our rights at the very minimum. And that's a very, very minimal most minimal project that we can come up with to protect our rights.
And then that gives us a jump-off point from there to go wherever.
Hopefully, the next phase would be, as the Mayor Cabalden has asked us to, again, create grassroots interest. We're hoping that we can get local parties interested in helping fundraise for this project or helping with the O&M for this. So we have a long process to get this to the pictures that I showed you, but that is the end goal.
Okay.
It would seem so important, though, from a historic preservation standpoint, that the I Street Bridge, it's time. It should have its due. You know, it's the older of the two big bridges. It's not always, it's always kind of been the bridge, you know, and kind of a death trap lately.
Yeah.
But
It's 108 years old. It's time for it to get a makeover.
but it's pretty stunning. Its construction is really unique. And doing something with that upper deck is the only real guarantee to preserve access to it for people, so,
That's correct.
yeah.
You're right, I think it's crucial to have that pedestrian, walking, stroller, running, bike
Biking.
access. Absolutely.
Ms. Yancey, what is O&M?
Sorry, excuse me?
What is O&M?
Oh, operations and maintenance. So after we make all the improvements, we'll have to find a way to pay for the ongoing costs of keeping it pretty and keeping it safe.
That's
And
the less
second
exciting.
question, does this Lantern Festival coincide with any traditional cultural festivals?
Not that I'm aware of. We're primarily doing this as part of the community outreach for this grant.
And have the Asian community, have they been invited to participate?
Oh, yeah, we have a consultant, AIM Consulting, who's doing all of that outreach for us.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we move to consent agenda. I'm looking at you two to help guide me through this, since this is my first time. Yes. Consideration of approval of the minutes of the September 24th, 2018 regular meeting and October 16th, 2018 joint meeting.
Second.
So it's been motioned and seconded and
Ask for
asked for.
any objection?
Any objection, questions?
Question on the September 20, pardon.
Go ahead, Julia.
Question on September 24th. Chair Price and Commissioner Brannaman, refresh my memory, was this a joint meeting?
That was the joint with the Parks Commission.
It doesn't say joint. The October 16th was joint.
It must have been an error. Those should be reversed.
Uh-huh. Yes, I
So on
understand.
the September 24th meeting, that would be Chair then Seals and, would that correction be?
So would I ask for a motion to correct the minutes?
I so move.
I think, yes? And a second to correct? the min-
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on, regular agenda. Update on the National Endowment for the Arts River Crossing Temporary Public Arts.
Christine?
Yes.
And the October 16th?
Did we not answer that question?
Yeah, we approved them both.
We approve them both?
Oh, sorry.
Uh-huh, that's okay. Thank you. Let's see, temporary public art selection completed by Sacramento and West Sacramento. Hi.
Hello. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Eric Will. I'm a Community Investment Specialist with the Economic Development and Housing Department with the city. Tonight, staff from both the City of West Sacramento and Sacramento will be presenting on the update for the National Endowment of the Arts selection panel for the River Crossing project. I'd like to introduce Donald Gensler from the Sacramento Metropolitan Arts Commission. Donald has worked closely on this process and will be running you through how that's gone, as well as just fielding any questions at the end. So here is Donald.
Thanks, Eric, and good evening to you, commissioners and Madam Chair. So the river crossing project, I would hope that you have heard something about this, but the interesting thing is that it touches on the exact types of things that are really being discussed with your I Street Bridge. It's really about also building some level of connectivity between the two cities. And if we could go to the next slide. So in about 4 years ago, actually both cities applied for and received National Endowment for the Arts, Our Town grant, to work together to bring and promote connectivity between both the downtown district of Sacramento and the Washington district of West Sacramento. And the culminating project was then to be a public art project. So what's come out of that? So to date, Sacramento has completed their public art plan for the downtown district, and it has also been integrated into the specific plan, which was then adopted last year by the city of Sacramento. West Sacramento is also working on their Washington district plan, which actually you'll be hearing about this evening. So that is just perfect timing. And as both of those plans finish and culminate, we have this piece of public art that's actually going to be more than a single piece. It's actually a temporary kind of public interaction opportunity. And it's all phased around the river. And I just wanted to point this one thing out. The Tower Bridge serves as a visible link between the two cities. So that's the first thing. Artists, well, we sent out an RFQ, and artists, you can go to the next slide, please. Or actually, I think I can go here. Artists looked along the Tower Bridge as a kind of first opportunity area. And some images from that first opportunity area. And then they looked at another opportunity area that was really along the river. And out of that, we had a little over 70 submissions. We allowed artists to think about the river not as a divider, but something that brings the two cities and those populations together. We had a number of interesting artists submit, and I'm going to get to that. And then we had an esteemed selection panel. I went through it a little bit too quickly. Well, these transitions really go kind of slow here. I'm trying to go backward one. Yeah. Am I controlling anything? Oh, okay. Good. Pressing buttons. So, and as you'll note, Commissioner Jordan was on our selection panel. We had really a rigorous debate over what artists should be selected. The panel spent a whole day just deliberating over all of these different artists who had submitted their work, and also a very short 250-word proposal. And they narrowed it down to actually 3 artists and then added a 4th because there were just so many great artists. And then those 4 artists came and presented. And I'll just show you real quickly. There were Adam Freeland, is a really interesting kind of light artist. Ball Nogues, that are architects and have a design studio doing a number of projects. Next slide, please. And Joshua Sofer, who actually was the selected artist, and Luna Studio. And then we can go to the next. And so Joshua's project, and the reason I think it was really selected, was it was all about the idea of connecting two cities. And it was what we might talk about in terms of visual art disciplines as a kind of social practice focused work. And so the work is very much about the process of interviewing people and discussing with people about a naming opportunity. I'm going to go to the next slide. So he has titled this River Crossing, I Want to Communicate with You. Joshua has now been here, has begun his kind of early process of developing the project. You can go to the next slide, please. And he's looking at two areas. One, the old Sacramento public dock, and then on the other side, a to-be-created dock right around this kind of Raley's Landing area in West Sacramento. Next slide, please. And the idea is that he would then launch a project in May that will engage people from both sides of the river, both cities, to be engaged in this public naming process. But it's not naming to the highest bidder. It's naming ordinary folks that are important to us and important to our lives and important to both cities. And so people will have an opportunity through a website that's going to be launched in May. I think Memorial Day was his plan, Memorial Day weekend. And at that time, people will be able to name the person they think that dock should be named after, and they will be able to give a 250-word kind of description of why. Next slide, please. So there's a whole public call and there's a whole public process that then, next slide, will ultimately involve these kind of maritime flags. And so Joshua started to look at these flags as a way to kind of create words, or in this case, names, but then also allow us just to kind of play a little bit with the idea of an international flag, these symbols that create names. So the website will have a kind of, see what your name looks like in maritime flag symbols as well. This is the general idea. They're kind of simple light boxes. Actually, the construction is quite simple. Next slide. And then those will be placed at the culmination of the project in September and October. Actually, here in West Sac, I think more October, November. And next slide. And so that's how they would appear on the Sacramento side. And then I'm going to say one last slide is going to be the West Sacramento side. Now, of course, the maritime flags that are there are not specific to what, we don't know what they're going to say, because ultimately that name would be chosen through this public process. But the idea is that they would be illuminated at night. They would be there on the dock. They would name the dock about this specific person on each side of the river. Also, Joshua has done this at a number of places. You can look at his work. It does work all around the world where he's done similar type naming projects. Every one is a little different. But they also create a small publication. So there'll certainly be some online publication, and then also most likely a print publication of maybe a short list of some of the people that were chosen through the nomination process. And the last thing I want to say is that, for Joshua as an artist, one of the things that's really important to him is that the naming process allows for a certain amount of equity, a certain amount of equality, in the sense that everybody has this same opportunity to present a name. And it's not just because you have, this amount of financial backing or not, but you really feel strongly that this person is somebody that's really valuable to you, valuable to the community, and valuable to a historic recognition of their name, because the idea is that that name would also persist and become a record for the city over time. So I'll just leave you with that image. That's a kind of general idea of what it would look like, and I'd like to open it up if any of you have any questions for me this evening.
Question? I have a question. I understand the submission, the application process for the naming, but I may have missed the selection process. After you've received all these names, who makes the selection for each side of the river?
So that process, great question. I didn't fully explain. I mean, there's many things I could explain here, but I probably would be taking up a lot of extra
Eric
time.
leapt from his seat, so he may have some input.
I can jump in, sure.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. So, thank you for the question. So, I actually was going to speak on this in just a second, but the overall process that we're looking at would be to form two panels, one for the city of Sacramento, one for the city of West Sacramento, of 4 judges. So this would make up our advisory judging panel. Ideally, this would be comprised of example people such as a local historian, a sports personality, as well as any type of gatekeeper or influencer within the community. So this is a range of people.
Ooh, influencer.
Influencers.
Did you hear that, Christy?
And we would expect that this panel would see many, many nominations, although these would be brief. Staff is still working with the artists as well as the mayor to figure out the details for the appointment of this panel. However, this process would still go through the Parks and Recreation, or look like similar to the Parks and Recreation process that occurs currently for the city.
So the process will go through Parks or will come through this commission?
So it would go through Parks as well as the City Council, and then the council itself would actually have the opportunity to confirm the recommendation or make any changes that it sees fit.
And why would it go through Parks rather than the Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission?
You're correct. This is the Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission. This is the appropriate commission that it would come to through this department, right?
Sorry.
Sorry, though.
Hi, Katie.
So many, hi, good evening, commissioners. What we did was we tried to conform what the artists wanted to do with the city's naming process. So for a park amenity, the naming process, and this has been a long time on the city's book, so I don't know the intention of it, but essentially it requires that there's this nomination period that's open, and then the Parks and Rec Commission makes the recommendation to council. So we can certainly bring it back here, and I can certainly figure out how to navigate that differently, but essentially, we're just trying to adhere to what's, on
But in line with that naming, should there be a public art piece in a park, that process goes through the Arts Commission.
Absolutely. I mean, definitely, we can blend it. And so we can just make sure that we come back before you and on the Parks and Rec Commission. When it comes back before the commissions, the commission will have the ability to accept the advisory panel recommendation or choose one of the other nominees. So I suppose if the commissions didn't come to the same finding and recommendation to council, then council would make the final decision. So that makes sense to me, that we can do it that way.
Mr. Gensler, is this doable in 9 months?
Yes. Yeah, the artist has worked out a very descriptive and detailed timeline.
I saw that.
As he did actually when the panel met. So he very clearly laid out exactly what would happen step by step. And by the way, I wanted to clarify why I'm here. So Metropolitan Arts Commission in Sacramento was just tasked as the project manager for this particular project. We are very much working in collaboration with the city of West Sacramento, and both cities are working in collaboration, but I end up being the kind of main point person because I also am the point person to the National Endowment for the Arts in terms of turning in all the necessary documentation for the project. But back to your question, yes, I'm very confident that we are on track for the timeline.
And if another extension is asked for, would the NEA grant another one?
I mean, it is possible. We are not planning on asking for any extensions at this stage. The plan at this stage is to complete it on schedule by September, October, and if we need to wait for the West Sacramento Pier to be completed, that's fine, as long as the Sacramento portion is installed, then the West Sacramento will be installed, and they'll have this kind of dialogue between each other. We'll do a dedication event afterwards.
And Rayleigh's is fine with the renaming?
It's not really officially Rayleigh's, it's just what we've always called it.
Yeah, Rayleigh's Landing, I think, is what has been called now. This is the actual pier and new dock that's going to be there, and that, to my understanding, does not currently have a name. So that's the idea, is that this would be the kind of naming opportunity for the city of West Sacramento.
Sorry.
And who are the local artist partners?
Local artist partners?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Joshua has reached out to a whole team of different artists that he is working with, artists and contractors that he is working with. He has one project manager that's here. Joshua himself is a UK-based artist, and he has a project manager here and other vendors that are going to help him complete the project. I don't have the specific names of those companies that he's been working with. Again, he's in the early stages right now of putting together the final plan for the website launch. But like I said, the website will launch in May.
And for those of us not schooled in maritime codes, will there be an interpretation section at the installation?
Absolutely. The plan is, and I myself am not schooled in maritime codes, as I think that many folks are not.
Me
And
either.
so, but your question is very astute and well taken, because part of the idea is that there would be a QR code, relatively simple plate, where somebody could then use their phone and connect to the website, which would then allow them to interpret the code and have all kinds of information about the project. What we're not going to have is a sign to interpret the sign, but it will be a website that you can then go to and find out more about the project, and also put your own name in there and see what your name would have looked like with maritime flags.
Okay, thank you.
And is this funding, this NEA funding, is it secure?
Yes.
So no matter which way the wind blows, no matter which projects?
No matter which government shuts down for a little while.
Yeah, that was my question. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no, it is secure, and actually, I've been in regular communication with the National Endowment for the Arts, which thankfully is up and running.
And then for the maintenance of this piece, where is the funding stream, since this is both sides of the river project, where is the funding stream for the maintenance of these pieces?
So there's some maintenance was worked into the original budget. However, the piece is meant only to be temporary. The name is meant to last, but the piece was initially meant to only be a temporary work of art. Both cities will determine whether they want to continue with the piece past the 6-month life of the piece, but that was the idea, was that the artist would be creating a piece that is temporary for both cities. Now, that said, the piece is going to be designed, installed, and constructed by a sign-making vendor. So there's no difference in terms of the quality than any other sign. But we will certainly look at that. If we do determine, both cities determine they would like the signs to continue, then we will certainly build a maintenance plan and a long-term plan for accession into our permanent collections. But right now, the plan is that it's a 6-month piece, and then we determine at that point if they would continue or not.
With a limited copyright, if West Sacramento wants to reproduce, photograph this piece of art, is that permissible under the copyright?
Sure. I mean, it's fairly standard that each city would have its right to reproduce for non-commercial purposes, and the artist retains his copyright to the work. Intellectual property rights generally are not going to be purchased unless there is some separate agreement. To more directly answer your question, yes, if West Sacramento wanted to use the image of the work, that's fine. That's detailed within the contract. But if you wanted to produce T-shirts, let's say, then that would be something we would need to discuss with the artist.
Thank you, Mr. Gensler.
Question? Go ahead.
So I know that you might not have this information, maybe somebody else from the Parks Department.
I've got a team right behind me, yeah.
But in general, what is the schedule for the new dock and all that construction and the new access ramp and those things? Just because I don't know.
We have secured all the funding for the dock. We got a $1.5 million from Boating and Waterways Federal Agency. And right now, we're finishing up our final design and permitting, purchased our mitigation bank credits, and we expect to begin construction in August and complete in October.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, commissioners?
I do. I don't want to get too much in the minutia, but I'm looking at the pictures. 10 feet high, 40 inches, is that?
Specifics are still being worked out, because part of that will depend on the name that is ultimately nominated and chosen, and the exact locations. We've had to play with a little bit of flexibility to be able to fit in specific areas, and we're still trying to work out some of the details there of exactly where those pieces will fit.
Do we get more letters than Sacramento?
I don't know. It's possible, depending on which
Double or
name,
nothing.
depending on which name is chosen.
Yeah, it's a short one, we could do that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
One of the reasons that this piece sort of won out over the others is that it was so moving to think of an average citizen could have the opportunity to have a piece of history named for them. And listening to the artist's presentation on the other works he's done around the world, naming a building after Average Joe or Average Joanne, it's quite moving, and I love this idea. I absolutely love it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would add one thing, actually, if I could, Commissioner Jordan, that I do just want to reiterate something that Commissioner Jordan brought forth here. The naming process really is a huge part of the art, right? So the actual interaction between people, the dialogue that happens, the artist is going to have ambassadors on both sides of the river walking around talking to people about this. We just met today with our art education department to figure out how we can go into schools and create school packs so that students can write 250-word, short paragraphs about who they would want to name, and whether they might whether they might include that in an English class or a history class, or however the school or the teacher might want to include that curriculum. So that's kind of exciting, and I think that many times we, myself included, we tend to think we are very object-focused. And so although this sign is certainly important, and I find kind of very beautiful light boxes that people go, what is that? And maybe they'll be encouraged, maybe they won't know for a while, and then they'll be encouraged to go down and look at it. But that ultimately, that naming process will be a huge part of the art and of the connectivity of the work.
The panel discussed the summer of nominating and going after these names, and what a movement that is, and how the movement between May and construction is as much a part of the idea as the physical art.
That's correct.
One more.
And so is the collateral that you're developing for the schools, is that available for both sides? Is that kind of a generic collateral that you plan to take to the schools? Is that something that city staff could use on this side as well?
Absolutely. We just met with our art education department today to kind of brainstorm some ways, and we certainly will be meeting with West Sacramento folks. Again, I am a kind of project manager for the project from the kind of overall administration side, but Joshua also has a dedicated project manager that is working with him that will be doing all of that kind of outreach. Again, as a component to his project. And if you have some particular ideas and people that you think that he could contact, please let me know. You can certainly get my contact information from Katie or Eric, and I would love it if you, and Christy as well, and if you would reach out to us and give us some suggestions on the West Sacramento side. But he will be putting a packet together that could be kind of easily transferred to a classroom.
Great. Eric, I have one question. What's the plan for the beautiful side of the river as you roll out this nominating process? I don't even think we meet again before May, do we?
There's a special meeting that will be held on this either in April
April? Okay.
or May.
So if there is a meeting in April, then we can, I think, come back and bring this before the commission.
And you're set to start the nominating process on, like, both sides of the river simultaneously?
Exactly. So the mayor's confirming the final appointment of this advisory panel. And when he confirms that process, really, as Donald was saying, the artist and the artist team is going to be in both cities at the same time. In fact, the artist told me, I'm going to be a lot more in West Sacramento. He sensed that would be important, and rightfully so. So he told me he was going to do a mailing to every single, I don't know if ultimately that would happen, but he intends to mail every single household in West Sacramento, on top of being in all the schools and being on, both electronic and print media, doing a lot of publicity. It's Christy, that's sort of the rest of his art is this process.
I got one.
Go ahead.
I have a kind of a question for staff, actually. If I understand this right, it'll be going and then after 6 months be done? Then what?
So we will install it with the construction of the dock, and then we will come back to your commission because it is a temporary artwork, but we have the option to continue and not to remove it. And we can make a decision at that time if we would want to continue the artwork and have it become more permanent. And we would be looking at, is there operation and maintenance associated with that, and how would that be funded? The good news is the EIFD that we have does now legislatively, there was a change, so we can use some of that for O&M. That would be a decision that your commission would make in the future as to whether or not it becomes permanent or not.
Sure. Okay.
And Katie, just maybe clarify that the original project could have been an event, like it was meant to be temporary from the beginning. Can you just provide a little
The
more
grant
about that?
funding calls that out.
We decided in our partnership, the cities thought that in order to give the most opportunity to the most artists locally and otherwise, and given the budget, which was pretty small, it has to be split to both sides of the river, that the best thing to do is to create it as a temporary work. And so, and also there's such an expanse of land that, the connectivity is over a large area, even across the river. That's quite a bit for an artist to connect to. So from the beginning, the cities determined that given the budget and the objectives and intentions of the NEA grant proposal, that temporary work was the best.
Any more questions? Go ahead.
Will there be any social media connecting with the community, like where we can see what names have been already like nominated and
Absolutely.
hashtags and
Absolutely. So the artist is setting up a dedicated website where you can put in names you want to nominate. You'll see what the art would look like in the navigational flags. And then ultimately, when the finalists are selected, then their stories will be, the finalist stories are really important, that they'll be publicized, they'll be on the websites, they'll be in social media, they'll be in the Sacramento Bee in our paper. So that's actually the bulk of the artist's budget is going towards that.
Oh, fantastic.
One more question about this, and then I promise I'm done. You're following the parks guidelines for naming parks. Does that mean that the people that are nominated from the community for this piece of art have to be dead?
No, absolutely.
Because parks, you have to be dead.
Well, okay, maybe didn't catch that.
Okay. Just thought I'd check.
Point, Denise.
I just thought, oh, wait a minute, we have a city naming policy. I need to try to make sure that I am following it. So, but if it's the requirement that someone must be deceased, that is not a requirement at all of
That's
this.
such a nicer way of saying it.
That is not a requirement
We know
of
what
this
you meant.
particular nomination. So we would be taking all nominations, and I will go read that naming policy carefully. And thank you.
Chair Jordan? Just for clarification, we actually just renamed a park, Willie DePrado Park.
Oh, that's right.
For somebody
Willie's
who
still with
is very
us.
much
Oh,
alive.
But that was
So-
an exception, right? Like the
So it has been
bridge.
done, there is precedent, so I just wanted to highlight that, because that
And
was
rumor
very
has
recent.
it he got really nervous after you named a park after him, but yeah.
Tracy, maybe, could we request that this is another time to call a joint meeting between Parks and Arts to review that?
I think so. We were
Okay.
Connie and I were just talking about that. I
Okay.
think we'll figure out a way to make it work so that we can get back in front of this commission either prior to Parks Commission or as a joint meeting would be really easiest, I think.
Thank you. No further questions? Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. So we will move, no actions taken, we're just moving on to number 6, yes? Presentation and update on Washington Art Plan and Implementation Strategy. You again. Thank you. We love all this talk about the river. I love how this river does join our two cities, and this is a fun night.
Good, well, thank you. I'm glad to be up here again. If you could please load, thank you. And I'm going to, oh, that is on, okay, just double checking to make sure it's not technology, user operator. So I'm going to be doing a presentation, the beginning part of a fairly robust presentation for you this evening on the planning deliverable that's associated with the NEA grant. So earlier, Donald mentioned that there is an art component and then a temporary art installation, and then there's a planning component that they've already done their work and they've updated their downtown-specific plan. We're in the process of updating our Washington-specific plan based on a document called Washington Realized. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of Washington Realized and some of the other existing policy documentation related to public art. And then I'm going to turn the presentation over to Cultural Planning Group. We have two consultants here, Jerry Allen and David Plattner-Saunders. They're going to walk you through the evolution of the art concepts that were talked about in Washington Realized that are going to be part of this deliverable under the NEA grant. So we're going to get nothing. Next slide, please. Okay, so the goals and the deliverable of the Washington Art Plan, that's our deliverable under the NEA grant. That will effectively become a chapter or components of chapters of the Washington-specific plan update. So you see that the goal is to identify these public arts and art experiences that do everything that's talked about in the general plan, which I'll talk about in a minute. But really, again, it's about connectivity. It's about orienting people to the riverfront, and it's about creating a sense of place. The components of the plan will be a discussion of the existing policy basis. The public outreach, we came and presented an item on the public outreach back in September. I'll walk you through that again. Sort of refine the Washington Realized concepts. And then we wanted to really focus on what do we think we can get done in the near term. 3 or 4 examples, we're going to run them to ground. What are the utility connections that we need to look at? What are some of the practical implications associated with the recommendations that are there? And so we really wanted to focus on implementation because we didn't want this to just be a plan that didn't really make something happen, so we can bring it back to you all and say, okay, we're ready to actually build something or rename something, or re-envision something. Next slide. So this is the document. This image is what was in Washington Realized. I'm just going to share with you guys really quickly. So the general plan is the umbrella that we operate under, and then the general plan's urban structure and design element is where we really see a lot of direction coming about the policies and goals related to what public art should do. And not surprising, it's a lot about connectivity, about creating a sense of place, about developing gateways and providing entrance points and welcoming our visitors and our residents to certain areas within the city. So that sort of is our policy that we're working within. Then Washington Realized was a process that we went through. It was a sustainable community strategy. We started in 2012. We finished in 2015. Had a really robust public outreach component to it. And the complete community strategy, which this is a party of, this document this image is a party of it, really focused on going out to the public and saying, what do you need in terms of parks and recreation, historic preservation in the community? And the one thing that we heard back from them overwhelmingly and unexpectedly was public art. We want public art, we want wayfinding, we want a sense of place out of Washington. So this came out of our various seminars and kickoff meetings that we had with the public. That's since made its way into the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, and we've been working closely with Tracy on making sure that all of that public demand demand for these improvements are showing up in her surveys so that they're matching the survey work that we did. And then we are also working closely, as you just received the presentation, on this NEA deliverable. And so ultimately, all this work will be making its way into the specific plan where it will be codified and become actionable. And so that's why we're focusing on these near-term implementation items. Next slide, please. So as I said earlier, we did a lot of public outreach starting basically in 2012. I wanted to show those little slides. So the purple, for those of you that are on the bottom, majority of the comments that we received at our kickoff meeting for Washington Realized were related to parks, historic preservation, and public art. So that was, we just heard an overwhelming amount, and those are actual cards that we collected. They were about this big. People wrote all over them and told us what they wanted. The pictures that you can see up there are from our public events that we've had. We had seminars over the summer of 2015, 2016, and then we had a public art event last year in the fall where we did a temporary art installation at the parish garage, or excuse me, the garage at 3rd and 5th, that we don't call it parish anymore, where we painted a temporary mural, and we asked the public to tell us, what do you think public art should be doing in the community? And we had 9 concepts and themes out for them, and we received about 250 comments, both in a written survey as well as like Post-its that were placed on these boards to hear back from the community what they were looking for. Overwhelmingly, we heard historic preservation and light and security and placemaking. We've also had several commission meetings, not only with this commission, but with our Planning Commission, our Parks Commission over this long-term process that we've been undertaking, and we've interviewed 2 of our commissioners as part of this process. We interviewed Commissioner Schatzel and Commissioner Domke, and we've also reached out to business owners, the city manager, the parks director. We've really been trying to understand what is it that you need this document to do in order for us to be a success in our public art installation in Washington. Next slide, please. So we revised. We looked at what was done by Schmidt Design Group as part of Washington Realized, and we said, okay, this is all really good. Some things have evolved. We've added an additional park. Item number 10 is a new park that wasn't included in Washington Realized, so we have a new park that we need to take into consideration. We've also advanced our work on the publicly owned properties that are located next to number 9, and so we've also recognized that we need to be incorporating some public art so that people from along the West Capitol Avenue corridor really understand that they're entering Washington. So we've added a couple of new concepts. Tonight's presentation's really just on items 1 through 8, but I wanted to let you know we just added 9, 10, and 11 recently, so that's why we haven't had a chance to do this. We do intend to come back at a special meeting, hopefully in April or May, like you heard before, and actually bring more information about each of these and a draft of the plan. So next slide, please. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our consultants. What they're going to do this evening is walk you through the criteria that they developed for analyzing each of those concepts that you have on your diagram map. And they're going to take you through some really nice visualizations of what each of those concepts could potentially look like, so you can see where we're going for in terms of implementation. And then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at the end. Thank you. Jerry?
Thank you. I'm Jerry Allen with the Cultural Planning Group. I'm here with my partner, David Pletner Saunders. We have another member of our team from ACOM. He's a landscape architect, and he's going to help us to visualize the concepts as they move forward. Could you hand out those? Oh, terrific. I'm handing out that image you saw of the plan that has these numbers on it, and I think it will help you follow the presentation as we move forward. So the numbers that you see will correspond with the projects that I'm going to be presenting to you. These are preliminary concepts. We want to hear your ideas about them, and I'm going to ask you toward the end to give me a sense of what you think the highest priority projects. This will be a multi-year effort in terms of fully implementing the plan as it's developed, but we do want to identify a few projects that can begin the process of implementation early on. The other point I want to make is that with each of the concepts, I'm going to be presenting to you an image of the location that we've identified, and also presenting to you some examples of the kind of art that might be appropriate that. I want to emphasize that we're not recommending any of these particular works of art. They're meant to just be illustrative of the kind of art that would be appropriate for that site. So as we were thinking about this, these are the criteria that we use to be thinking about the art that should be a part of this project. And the number one, ought to be in boldface, that the purpose of any public art program is to commission work of very high quality and of enduring value. And I emphasize that enduring value as a part of this. The reality is that if you cast something in bronze or some other permanent material and put it in a public place, it might be there for 50 years or 100 years or, in Europe, 500 years. So we need to make sure that all of the works that are created under this program are of the highest quality and have a value that is such that the value will be lasting to the community. And then you can see the others. We want to reinforce the character, and I emphasize the word evolving character because just the implementation of a plan like this will be an important evolutionary action that you would be taking that will change and one hopes dramatically improve the character of the Washington District. The connections to the river has been part of this discussion from the beginning. In a certain kind of way, if you're a stranger and you're walking through the Washington District and you talk about the river, the question is, where is the river? You can't see it. There is the levee there, but it doesn't really tell you what's beyond. So one of the things that we would hope this program would do is draw people to the river so that they can experience the river as a really important geographical and physical characteristic of the neighborhood. Increasing connectivity of the districts to adjacent neighborhoods. And I would assume that one would hope as this is implemented that the art program would spread around into the Bridge District and other neighborhoods so that you begin to reinforce this idea that West Sacramento is a city of the arts, where the arts are essential to the character and the aspirations of the community. We think it's important to honor the heritage of West Sacramento and the district. And Don gave us a couple of stories that I've been enjoying and was a little amused at when he told them, but there is a rich history and character to the neighborhood that we need to seek out some opportunities through the public art program to celebrate that history. Providing opportunities for local and regional artists, I think, is an important aspect of this program. And I think they're pieces of what is emerging as the plan that will create those kinds of opportunities. And then finally, integrating all of this art so that there is a larger collection in the city. We had an opportunity to go around the city the last time we visited and saw the work in the collection, and we think that eventually creating a city collection of the very highest quality. I love the June Kaneko pieces out on the river, extraordinary artist, and so you've done a great job in identifying some important works of art, and our hope is that the works under this plan will match the standard that you've already set for the collection. Next slide. So we're going to present to you 8 concepts that we'd like you to consider and comment on in this evening. And you can see them listed there. I won't go down that list because you'll see them as we go through the slides. But the first one is a major sculpture at the east end of East Street. So if I could get the next slide. It's a little hard to see from the audience. I hope your resolution is better than what we have down here, but you can see that shot from the street. It's one of the ways, one of the openings to the river or pathways to the river that is sort of open and expansive, and it's a serious opportunity to make a strong statement there. Next slide. So again, an illustrative example. It needs to be highly visible. It should attract people to that end of the street. It should be visible from a certain district, should be colorful or hopefully colorful, and might incorporate some kind of motion as a way to draw the eye in that direction. And we've got several examples of each of them. Next slide. This is a work in San Jose by Andrew Lester, where he actually created a pathway to the new city hall by incorporating these chariot-like sculptural forms. Next slide. Work by Dennis Oppenheim. Dennis is kind of a madman, but he creates a really wonderful thing. This is actually a bus terminus shelter in Ventura, California. Next slide is the water tank. That's number 2 on your on the map that you have in front of you. It's an existing water tank. It's highly visible and again creates an opportunity to create a kind of beacon on the river, and again an opportunity to draw people to the river. Next slide. And these are just some examples of the kinds of treatments that can be done with that sort of structure. Next slide. So 3 examples. And we can make copies of this presentation available to you if you'd like to have it and have it available. You know, the Tower Bridge is obviously, you know, it's one of the symbols of the city. It's a very important site. And so the thought is that it's an opportunity to, again, draw attention to that area as an important part of the city. And so we're proposing that some sort of artwork be there. Go ahead. And what I would say about it is that, you know, the bridge is a pretty imposing backdrop. So whatever work is there has to be powerful and stand on its own. This is a work that Mel Chin did for the Houston Convention Center. Is again, you can see that he used the scale to be appropriate to the kind of site that it was sitting at. Next slide. On a smaller scale, and again, maybe one that incorporates a little bit of history, this work by Tom Otterness. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but it's playful and very approachable kind of art, and of course it can scale to any size. Another work, again, larger scale, made possible by the kind of openness of the structure of the project. This is by Lorna Richards, who is a Seattle artist. That this work is placed at the entrance to a park, and the dragonfly form. Another sort of iconic piece. In this case, it's a work by Larry Kirkland, and it is a major work that is outside of a new library that they built. So again, it's speaking to the place in a real kind of way and has a kind of dramatic effect or imagery. Go ahead. I don't know if you know Nancy Ruman's work, but this is I put that in because this is actually a monumental structure, but it's constructed out of boats. And I thought, thinking about the river, but she makes these major works. She did a major work in one airport where she literally took parts of airplanes and created this huge structure. There are a couple of sites that we think might be appropriate for some kind of heritage art. One is adjacent to the State General Services building. There's a strip of land there that will be needed to be developed as a part of a major development that is going to go immediately to the south of that, in where the area is marked 3, and the other is a park area that may be developed on between 2nd Street and the river, and East Street and the railroad trestle. And so that's a sort of blank slate there, but it seems to me that if we're going to do a substantial work that relates to historic preservation or commemoration, that might be an appropriate site. Go ahead. So here are a couple of examples of public art that focuses on historic commemoration. This is a work in Pioneer Square in Seattle by Edgar Heepeverds, and it is a memorial or a commemoration of the life of Chief Seattle, which, of course, he was the Indian chief of the tribe that was in that area. Next slide. This work from it's in Los Angeles. It's the Biddy Mason Memorial. Biddy Mason came as the first African-American group of people that migrated from the South to Los Angeles, and she became a very important figure in the history of the city. And I put this in because that one site is a kind of long linear site, and there might be an opportunity to place something in that area. And what I want to emphasize about this is that the way that public art can be powerful in heritage work and in historic commemoration is to tell the story. You know, I worked on a project in San Jose. I used to be the cultural affairs director in San Jose, California. And the city, along with the university, was building a new joint library, city-university library. And the original library of the city was called the MLK Library. It was dedicated to Dr. King. And a lot of people wanted an oversized bronze statue or bust of Dr. King. And I resisted that idea because Dr. King's contribution to American society and to the world was not his likeness. It was about a story about the color of skin and how much it matters in this world. So we engaged Mel Chin as the lead artist on the project, and he created a beautiful project where he created this glass vessel that sits inside the library. And on the opening day of the library, he had a computer and he scanned in the skin color of every person who passed through the door. And now, in this beautiful glass vessel, projected up through it are these hundreds of skin tones that come up through it. A beautiful work, and it speaks to the real thing. And so my advice to you is if you do historic commemoration, tell the story. That's the important part. Focus on what's really the essence of what that history is. I'll get off my soapbox here for a minute. You'll probably see some of my biases coming through on this. Next slide, please. Another project in Seattle that has to do with the Indian tribes and their meeting there, where they had a kind of conflab of all of the Indians tribes trying to deal with the fact that many of their lands had been really confiscated from them. Next slide. Do we have another slide? There we go. Wayfinding is an important opportunity in the project, and we are suggesting that C Street, E Street, and the Tower Bridge Gateway Street are three areas where wayfinding can be used to lead people through the district and to the river. And we're suggesting that this is an opportunity to do smaller scale works, to do temporary works, as opposed to sort of grand statements. So let me give you a few examples of that. This is a work by Konstantin Dimopoulos. It's actually a work in Australia. But he's developed this system of pigments that can be put on trees that do no harm whatsoever to the trees, but create these kinds of pathways through space. So, interesting idea. This is a work by Jack Mackey. Some of you may know this work. Very well-known work. It's a project on Broadway Street, and he was asked to do something in this sort of derelict district in Seattle. So he created these 8 steps, sets of dance steps on the street. And what's interesting about it is this was funded by a business improvement district. And the merchants who were paying for it had serious doubts about whether this was public art. They were probably thinking about bronze salmon or something leaping out of the sidewalk, but Jack prevailed. What's interesting is, with these 8 dance steps, people grab a partner and they start dancing in the streets on this Broadway street. And the merchants now love it. They've moved their tables out onto the sidewalk. And so we understood that the problem was to slow people down and notice where they are. And I'll give you one story about this, one quick story. 8 dance steps, 6 of them are real dances. 2 of them, Jack just made them up. And one of them, you can't get your feet into those positions, no matter how hard you try. So people are out there doing this kind of wild effort trying to do this dance, and they're laughing and they're having fun in the streets, which we don't always give ourselves permission to do in our society. It's a brilliant kind of solution to the problem. Next slide. One possibility is a series of related works going down one of these pathways. This is a very well-known Japanese artist, a young woman, who does these polka dot sculptures. That's sort of the theme that runs through all of her work. Next slide. And they can be very minor, little interventions in the street where artists are given an opportunity. Just make this small statement. And again, temporary art is a certain important opportunity along this area. Next slide. This is a work, a temporary piece, and those are pipe cleaners, just stuck in the ground. I guess the word is chenille stems, but the point is they're little colored pipe cleaners that are stuck into the ground and aren't intended to be there forever, but creates a kind of animation of the street. Go ahead. One more example. This is in Arizona, and it's based on native plants in the area. Next slide. There is an underpass that is owned by the city and the city has control of the site. And one possibility is to develop a mural. It's one of the areas, if you're going east on West Capitol Avenue, you would pass through that in order to enter the Washington district. Next slide. And what I'm suggesting is that whatever is there, because there is a pedestrian trail there, but it's also an active street. So whatever is there needs to be simple and able to be experienced through a bug-spattered windshield is not the best medium through which to experience art. So whatever it is, it needs to be simple and be able to be read in a fairly quick way. So I've given you a couple examples of that. Lights are an obvious possible solution. Next slide. And again, just painting patterns. There is a tower structure at the end of 3rd Street. It's number 7 on your map. It was apparently a communications tower. It now has an announcement, I guess, of the Riverwalk and some images, I think, of an egret and other things on it. But it's a really important opportunity in terms of being a very highly visible site. And it's one that particularly there's an opportunity to do a light installation or something that could be a real beacon that is visible not only from the Washington district, but the entire city and in fact from across the river. So I've given you a couple examples of what those might be. So these are tower structures that incorporate light. Next. And of course, I'd love to do something like that, so that they could see it from San Francisco, And then the last thing to present to you is there is an existing Washington monument that's located on C Street where the landing of the new bridge will take place. If it is possible to relocate it, then it would be relocated. There's some question from the engineers about whether it's possible to relocate it without damaging it. So we'll report more on that about it later. So those are the 8 concepts I want to discuss with you. And there are several things I'd like to hear from you. One, your overall reactions to the plan as it's been developed to date. Secondly, are there any concepts that occur to you that you think might be added to the plan? Are there any elements of the plan that you can't stand and you think should be deleted from the plan? And then finally, I'd like you to give me an indication of what your sense of priorities are among these concepts, if you agree generally with the direction we're going. So I'll go to listening mode.
Thank you very much for so much information. Commissioners?
Question to staff. Is the Native American Museum still in planning? Is that?
Yes.
And that will be around 2 on this map, between 2 and 8?
Yeah, I got it. Excuse me. I'll
Yes.
answer that. Okay. So it's actually north of the Washington area. It's not between 2 and 8. It's much more north of the Washington neighborhood where the Indian Heritage Center is going to be. So if you see where the words Lighthouse Drive are at the top of the diagram, you need to go north on that road to get to the Indian Heritage Center site.
And what's the date of completion on that, do you know?
It's not being managed by the city. It's a state project, and so we've just completed our negotiations with them related to the land and hopefully a trail that will be constructed along the crown of the levee, but I don't have any other information. I doubt that Tracy does either, since we've literally handed it over to the state, and now the state is responsible for delivering that project.
So my question would be, considering the importance of the Native Americans to the river and vice versa, some form of art which would commemorate and lead into that site would be a high priority for me as recognizing the rich history that is on the river. And secondly, for me, artists Roger Berry, Thomas Ramey, who did a huge Stonehenge construction for Indiana Museum, Stephen Kalmbach, who has the convention center heads, Tony Nitsoulis. Those local artists are very vibrant. Their work is very good and very majestic. And I hope that we can consider and give strong, what would you say, weight, thank you, perfect words for everything tonight, Denise, strong weight to some of those artists whose work has moved me so much locally.
Yes, and I want to say that I deliberately did not include in the presentation local and regional artists because it might give the impression in a public meeting that I'm pushing particular artists. But absolutely, there should be consideration of.
And I've just named a few. I'm sure that my knowledge is limited, and the artists you've shown us are very interesting and vibrant, and the light ideas. And thank you for instructing us on telling the story through art, because sometimes the aesthetic, takes precedence in my mind. So that's a very interesting way of looking at it. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, Don.
One of the things that... There we go. One of the things that, you've heard this before, so just for the commission, what that jumps out of here is, for me, was I went up 5th Street a couple weeks ago and looked back towards the river and saw a parking lot and the ziggurat, you know, and I could see the restroom that is built on the Riverwalk, but I only knew it was a restroom because I know it's there.
Right.
Okay, it's the, you know. So what I like here is, and I think Katie mentioned this a year ago, maybe more, a west-east looking art that says, "Come here."
Yes.
So when you're, you know, right now, for a lot of really good reasons, and it's terrific, everything we seem to do is on the river. It's north-south.
Right.
And that's okay. I mean, it's more than okay. It's terrific. But if you're new to the community or just driving around or walking around, you don't know how to get to the river if you're on the other side of the buildings.
That's right.
And so you've covered that here, and I appreciate that, you know. Because if, you know, we have new residents in town that they're driving around, and
Right.
we know how to get there because we were there when they built the parking lot in the Zig, and, you know, but not every, you know. So you've captured that here, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You know, and in terms of ideas, I liked all your ideas. I mean, I like all that stuff. That's terrific.
Just need something with a lot of zeros behind it.
Well, yeah, I know. No, don't get serious on us now. Come on. You know. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I guess my initial reaction, I loved that you thought of some clever things to do with existing pieces. They're not my favorite pieces, but light could help. You know, new paint could help, and they're there already.
Right.
And that seems like an easy win,
Yes,
you know, to
agree.
start with where we are.
that's exactly right.
So I appreciate that. The Washington Monument was paid for with redevelopment funding. You remember when we did, were you here, Katie, when we did and then it was originally supposed to be 2. And but they couldn't figure out how to put the other one in the street, which turns out to be a really good thing. It was a concept to introduce, it's ironic that Matt was here talking about, you know, the local terms for neighborhoods in our community, because the hope at the time was that, you know, that was to be kind of an Art Deco-y looking thing, to talk about the Washington neighborhood. And there was a thought that maybe at all of the places where you come in to one of our neighborhoods, there might be something that doesn't look like the Washington Monument, looks like something that you would think about as you came into those neighborhoods. There are shades of that as it relates to the Washington District, which certainly is the easiest for us to get funding for.
Right.
But if that could be, I mean, the Bright neighborhood is very close to that, entirely different history and experience in the Bright neighborhood. Just thinking that some of the ways that that both the kids that grow up in this community learn to identify where they live and to make connection with, if that could play out where we do have funding, you know, in a way that we could transfer it to other neighborhoods, should Don win the lottery and give all his money to the Arts Commission.
Thank you, yes.
But that's a thought
I
about
appreciate
that.
it.
Yeah. The challenge with the river is that sometimes even if you've lived here for a long time, you can't figure out how to get to the river.
Right.
It's better now, you know, because the trail goes up, but Riverwalk Park is an asset that has been pretty much enjoyed by people who work in big buildings and not.
Well,
the community.
it's a beautiful asset, but I have to tell you, on my first visit here, I couldn't find the river. I mean, I generally knew that it was to the east, but there weren't any cues
Right.
particularly except the Tower Bridge, to tell me that, there was something under
The
there.
good news about that is we won't flood.
Right.
You know, the
Right.
thing that was to people an obstacle to the river is also the thing that keeps the community safe.
Yes, exactly.
And then the other point I would make is that as you look in some of these parks that are suggested, it is my strong belief that all public art that there should be at least some public art that is accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And so if it had a tactile component,
Mhm.
or were a thing that, like our little stack of library books that Joe Bellicera did, that kids have been having their pictures taken in front of, the things that connect people to their community.
Yes.
Not just move them to the river, but become identified,
Yes.
in the community, for everyone in the community.
Point well taken.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Denise, how old is that monument? When you said it was built with redevelopment funds, is that right?
Yeah, so it's probably 10 years old, maybe? We could get out and go look at the plaque.
So I think it's important to note how old that is, as if we attempt to save it and cannot, it's not as though it's been there for 100 years.
That's
Is that
true,
right?
but it would be a shame if
Of
all of the
course.
effort and money that went into that,
Of course.
I would be shocked if it could be moved, just saying, but.
There may be a possibility that an artist could take components of it and create a new
Yeah, don't take that
A
thing
new
at the top.
generation.
Leave that thing at the top someplace else.
Sure.
So because it's the I Street replacement bridge that will take that monument out, because it needs to come into that area, it should also include funding about what needs to happen with it and about relocating
Oh,
it. So
great.
it could be
Oh, okay.
re-envisioned, as you suggest, but to know there is some funding attached to whatever we decide to do with that piece.
But it is good for us and for the community to understand that's 10 years old and. Mhm. I agree with what you said about public art that you could potentially touch in parks. We need Instagram moments. These are what make our kids feel like they're at home and
They belong
help
to
with
a
those
place, yeah.
memories.
No, those are important. There's the city of Scottsdale has one of Robert Indiana's, who's now deceased, but his love sculptures. And there are hundreds of people, usually young couples, getting their photograph in front of that. And those are important opportunities. They become kind of touchstones in the community that people relate to, and that can be an important function of public art, certainly.
We see that happening with Subtile on the river.
Right.
With people lined up to take
Or
pictures
the
in front of it.
west sign.
Or the west sign.
Yeah.
Mhm. Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you,
One
thank you.
thing.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's actually one slide that comes after this. I
Oh, okay.
apologize. If you could have the next slide. We just wanted to let you know that the next steps, so we didn't want to conclude that. So we would like to have a special meeting in April or May to bring you the draft plan in a workshop form, so you can see all of this put together and synthesized, including the feedback that we received tonight, as well as any additional policy language. So one of the other tasks is under implementation considerations was to look at some of our outstanding art policies or programs and let us know if there's any changes that need to be made. So those will be presented to you in May, and then we'll be coming back at your regularly scheduled June 24th meeting to ask you to approve the document with any changes that you asked to incorporate at that workshop, and send it to the city council for approval. It has to be approved by September in order for us to meet our NEA grant deliverable timelines. I just wanted to circle back. I apologize.
So
for-
does the funding for this relate just to, this is all NEA funded, but you talked about our current art policies.
Yes.
Which really address minimal funding streams. Is this the time to talk about that? I don't mean tonight. I mean
Yeah.
like April or May or
Yes,
June? or-
we certainly can come back and talk about some of those implementation considerations. The geography that this project is focused on is just Washington.
Right.
But, we went to make sure that if there's any policies out there or any funding strategies out there, that they're being incorporated into the specific plan so we can make them as
And
actionable as
So the
possible.
EIFD that you said you might have funding to do maintenance, is that just is that the Washington district or is that the Bridge district?
That's the citywide EIFD.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just needed to add that piece. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any more questions?
Chair Jordan, just a comment in my director's update. I'm actually going to be speaking to the public arts strategy, so more info to come in just a little bit on that.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to item number 7 on our agenda. Update on Gallery 1075, the Black Box Theater, leisure interest classes and special events in 2019. Sam Brinkheis, how are you, Sam?
Oh, doing well. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Nice to see all of you. And again, congratulations to the new members of the commission. Again, my name is Sam Brinkheis. I'm a Recreation Supervisor 2 with the Department of Parks and Recreation. And I oversee 4 main program areas, which include the Gallery 1075, the Black Box Theater, the leisure interest classes, and the community special events. I am here this evening alongside Michael Poe, our Black Box Theater lead, who runs the day-to-day operations of the Black Box, and Kira Comiskey, our Gallery 1075 art curator. Okay, so what we have for you this evening is a presentation on what to expect in 2019 in these service areas. However, before we begin our presentation, we would like to give a little bit of background information for those newer commissioners who may not be aware of these 4 distinct areas. So we'll go ahead and start with Kira and the gallery.
Hello, again, my name is Kira Comiskey. I'm the Gallery 1075 curator and arts lead at the Community Center. Gallery 1075 is a fantastic space located in the Community Center towards the bus terminal portion of the building. And it's a 2-dimensional gallery with a wire suspension system. So we hang all of our work isn't directly mounted on the walls. We hang everything down through a cable system. It's a 2-dimensional gallery, meaning like flat pieces like illustrations, but also not limited to things like textiles. Anything that can be actually strung with a wire in the back can be exhibited on our walls as well too. Our shows generally revolve every single month, so every year we have 11 to 12 shows annually, and they range from local shows, artists from the West Sacramento area, as well as regional shows, artists from the Sacramento City area, or even spanning out as far as the Bay.
Thank you.
And then Mike's going to give a quick update on the Black Box background.
My name's Mike Poe, P-O-E. I am the newest member of the Community Center team. I joined in late June. And of course, I appreciate any opportunity to talk about the Black Box Theater. You may not be aware that the Black Box Theater is a nickname. The actual architectural style is called flexible theater. You're probably more familiar with a proscenium theater, and that is one that has a big arch and a big curtain, which is called the main drape, and behind that is the set and the actors, and all the lights are pointed in that direction. And then on the front side is usually about 2/3 of the room is for the audience. A black box is the exact opposite. There's no curtain. The lights can be pointed in any direction. There's no particular place for the artists to be or for the audience to be. It's completely flexible. So one director can walk in and say, I want to put the set over here and the audience here and here, and the next director can do the exact opposite. You can also set it up for theater in the round where there's no set at all and the audience is on all 4 sides. So I'll be showing you examples of what we've been doing recently and what we expect to be doing the rest of this year. Back to Sam.
Okay, so in terms of leisure interest classes, this is another area we, as a city and as a department, contract with independent instructors to run these classes, some on-site at the community center and one off-site at Sam Combs Park. If those of you or any in attendance or watching this would like to become an independent instructor, they would first need to fill out a course proposal sheet. After that, there's an interview process and a class demonstration, and if the class is picked up, then there's a fingerprinting and background check to that as well. Some examples include dance, art, cooking, martial arts, ballet, paint nights. We've had paint nights, and last year in 2018 we had 484 leisure interest participants. In regards to the special events, the fourth and final section, these are programs and events designed to bring community members into the Civic Center District. Some of these include the holiday tree lighting in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, our Arts in the Heart event, which I'll touch on further on in the presentation, our Intergalactic Expo, which benefits the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and this past weekend, we just actually had the annual father-daughter dance, which I'll show here shortly. So what we would like to do now is go ahead and start our slideshow with the gallery and Kira.
I'm back. First slide, please. So we've already had a fantastic year to kick off 2019 at the gallery, and we debuted the year with Wounded Bird Revisited, which were a series of surrealistic paintings by Ron Kendall. Ron Kendall is a videographer, photographer who actually studied at UC Davis during the 70s with the likes of Wayne Thibault, who's most famously known for like his cake and pastry paintings. And Kendall's career took him into videography and photography over the last few decades, but recently grabbed his heart again with painting and dove into that, exploring his dreams and the surreal and these fantastic narrative like nightmares or dreams, if you will, in his work. Next slide, please. This month is a fantastic original exhibit, actually, that we've created over at the Community Center in recognition of February is African American History Month. And in inspiration of that, myself and my colleague Jacqueline Noble, also at the Community Center, have created this art exhibit entitled Our Art Matters, Visualizing the African American Experience. It's a collection of just over 10 artists with two-dimensional artworks, predominantly paintings, that celebrate African American culture, historical figures, and just celebrations of African American life and beauty. In our public recognition of that is every month we also have art receptions at the gallery. And this month for Our Art Matters, we chose to have a closing art ceremony. So we actually would love to invite you to that. It's this upcoming Wednesday evening, right across the street in Gallery 1075 from 6 to 8 p.m. If you happen to be available, we would love to host you. There will be snacks. Next slide, please. This March, we'll actually be hosting a West Sacramento resident, Dawn E. Green, in her acrylic landscape paintings. So Dawn is a resident of West Sacramento and actually utilizes our VIA system to get around town. So she is a really nice lady who also donates her works to charity and participates in the KVIE PBS charity programs every year as well, too. So we're really looking forward to showing off her colorful landscapes next month. Next slide, please. In April, we have another local show. This one is actually through our Learning Ladder preschool facility, which is located on the second floor of the West Sacramento Community Center. Every year, they present a sustainable art show. So they use recyclable materials and often create their own animals or transportation, like their own little cardboard cars, every year with the children to explore sustainable materials and kind of get that going at a very nice young age. Next slide, please. This May, Sam will touch on this a little bit later with our special events, but our May show actually is in conjunction with our Intergalactic Sci-Fi Expo. And this one, while it looks like I may not be able to spell, I promise you most of the time I can, this one is called Gallifrey 1075. And Gallifrey is actually a reference to a Doctor Who TV show. It's a sci-fi time travel based TV show, and delightfully that happens to work with Gallifrey and Gallery, so it's just a little play on words. And we're actually it's a completely original exhibit, so we've created our own call to art, reaching out for sci-fi based artists or time travel themed artworks to create our own body or collection of artworks and then exhibit that for the month of May in conjunction with the Intergalactic Expo. Thank you.
In June, earlier today, we heard from the West Sacramento Art Guild with Judy Martinez, and we're always happy to host them every year in June with their annual art show. A majority of the guild members are actually award winners. They do a variety of work ranging from the abstract to landscapes to portraiture, and every year, last year I believe we had just over 20 artists and just under 40 unique pieces of art on exhibit in our gallery, and a very bustling reception to accompany it as well too. Next slide, please. In July, we will be presenting The Oxymoronic Effect by a young West Sacramento resident, Angelo Miranda. It will be a series of black and white drawings. Some of them will be still lives, and some of them will actually be scenes from West Sacramento. Next slide, please. In August through September, we will actually be presenting the photography, some of it aerial, of Delta Grandeur. It's photography by Rich Turner, and it is nature photography of the San Joaquin Valley in its natural splendor, and also touching base on agriculture as well too. It's a special exhibit set up in conjunction with the West Sacramento Historical Society. So as a special exhibit, we'll be exhibiting it for 2 months over the course of August and September. Next slide, please. Also, Sam will touch on this again. We have so many wonderful special events at the community center. This one is our Arts in the Heart show. And we have an original exhibit where we put out a call to art. And our Arts in the Heart is a celebration of culture and diversity in West Sacramento. So last year we had 19 artists and just under 30 pieces of unique artworks, mostly ranging in paintings and collage and photography to celebrate the various ethnic and diverse members of our community. Next slide, please. In November, we will have our Kids Zone After School Youth Program art show, in which we like to invite the commissioners every year to help jury the show. The Kids Zone program creates a few hundred pieces of unique artworks. Every year there's a different theme. Last year was It's a Small World. The year before that was a Dia de los Muertos Book of Life theme. But they like to invite all the art commissioners to come help jury the work, and then about 24 or so pieces are selected for the final exhibition inside Gallery 1075. Last slide, please. In December, we welcome back James Jensen. He exhibited with us about 2 years ago. James Jensen's work, he is an aficionado of Mexican-American culture and a history buff, loving of Westerns in particular, and he creates these very colorful narrative paintings that often have to have a little history placard accompany them, so those not entirely in the know can have some insight onto his works. And then other ones are just very colorful paintings depicting dancing skeletons or even skeleton mermaids as well too. And that is our eventful year coming towards us for 2019. Next slide, please. If you are interested in sharing information about our gallery, including our gallery application, or just curious what's coming up next month, you can find the information for that on our westsacfund.org page. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if needed at the end of the presentation. But again, I would love to invite you out to our art reception this coming Wednesday if you happen to be available, so you can see this very unique, inspiring exhibit before it goes away. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm back. And I'll be talking about the Black Box Theater, of course. And our first slide shows what it is. It's 2,000 square feet of empty space. Thankfully, that's exactly what it needs to be. It has a control room and a booth for the audio and visual aspects, and then a very nice dressing room that I have not seen in theaters across the country, quite as nice as this one. We did have 40 people changing in this one small space this past weekend, which was interesting, but it is otherwise quite flexible, and all sorts of things can be done. So I'll show you some of the setups. For one thing, the top left photo shows you a picture from the grid, the lighting grid kind of catwalk, looking down, and you can see the riser section there that has 3 rows. Those are movable, and we have 3 in there now, and we can add a 4th, and we can also make it 5 rows if we wanted. On the bottom left, you can see a kind of a basic lecture setup that we've had in the past, and that is we'll add seats to the floor area in front of the lecture because you don't need that much space and you want to kind of give it a little more connection to your audience. And then again on the right, there are no seats assigned in there and no risers, and we do workshops in there. So you've got plenty of room to work around in that kind of setting. So it's very versatile, and that is the whole point. Going through some specific events, we had Real Men Wear Pink. That was a fundraiser for cancer awareness, and that show was set up as a comedy club. And we had 4 professional stand-up comedians and the mayor. Not necessarily a professional stand-up comedian, but he gave it a shot. And they performed on a relatively small stage that only took up 12 feet from the back wall, and so we were able to fill it up with chairs. That's pretty much the maximum setup of about 145 seats in that room. The Zumba Party in Pink, if we go back to that one, that is an event that had a larger stage set on a different wall, and Zumba instructors were dancing on there, 5 to 7 of them, and then the rest of the floor was available for the dancers. This is a huge event that takes up the entire community center. This portion was in the black box, but there were other events going on in other rooms downstairs. And now the next slide, please. In the fall, we also had the Semantics choral group. I don't know if you've seen them before. They're out of the Sacramento area. They've also performed all the way over into Berkeley. They're quite good. They did their 80 years of Oscars music, and it was a fundraiser for the West Sacramento Historical Society. And I'd like to point out that the piano you see there was donated by the Historical Society in September of 2014. And it, in my time here, it got used 4 times in just 3 months. So it's very handy to have it there. Sometimes there are individual events, and sometimes it's in a show that might be used every night for a couple of weeks. And the top right is video productions we've had in there. Producer Chip White has done educational programs in this space before, and before the risers were set in a V shape and kind of facing towards the stage area that they created. In this case, he specifically asked if we could just remove all the risers so that they had maximum flexibility, and that's exactly what we did. It allowed us to build the set area, then put in the seating, and then put in the 4 cameras, and build a temporary television control room in the back of the room. And so they were able to create 5 educational products out of that for clinical psychologists around the world. Kiki Uvero is a piano teacher, and she joined forces with another piano teacher, and they did a joint recital, again using the same piano. And we set it up for, a semi-professional appearance so that the students got a feel of what it's really like and not just playing in a living room. So we put them in a spotlight, we gave them a microphone so they could announce the piece they're playing, and they would sit down and play, and their parents would be thrilled to know what they've been paying for all this time. The next slide. Perhaps you are aware of the British Panto that takes place in December. Now, this is one of our reoccurring events. We can count on that one. Everything else is, we're pleasantly surprised when everything else comes in. British Panto is a specific form of theater. You've heard of comedies, dramas, musicals. This is something else. It is very musical. It's usually a fairy tale, only Splinter Theater Group, which produces this, has delved into heavy literature. Last year was Beowulf, which was a hoot. This year it was Moby Dick. And so lyrics of popular songs suddenly have references to Ahab and Ishmael and Moby Dick and fishes and such. So that happened in December. They've been with us every December for about 8 years, and they did very well their first year. They have lost money ever since until this December 2018, and they give credit to our more robust use of social media, and then also Sam has marketing tools he was able to put into effect, and it made a difference, and they're quite thrilled to have made a profit this time, and they actually had sold out shows on their closing weekend, and they are already planning for next year. And next is, in February, we hosted a Sweetheart Dance. Again, that's another one where there's more people than seats, a lot of standing and dancing going on in there. And that is for the Club West, which is under Parks and Rec, recreation for teens, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And they do it twice a year. We had one in the fall for the Fall Fest, and then again for the Sweetheart Fest. And that happened to be in the middle of the Music Man production. So Music Mayhem Productions in Elk Grove normally would have done their February show at 24th Street in Curtis Park, but it was booked. So they found us, I gave them a tour, and they went, oh wow, we haven't seen a black box theater this nice before, quickly booked us and came in with 40 singers and dancers and actors in their youth theater company. And that seemed a little daunting, but some of them are small, they're kids, so you can pack them in tightly. And there they are in period costumes of 1912 doing the Music Man. And they saved space by doing a backdrop rather than building a set that took up space. And we seated 97 seats, and they sold out all shows before they even opened. So they're very happy with that, and they told me multiple times that they already know what show they want to do next year. They want the February time slot, and they want to do a 9-person show, and that way they're able to add an extra 16 or so seats. So we're looking forward to having Musical Mayhem Productions back. And coming up next, now assuming you have missed all of that, you have an opportunity to see something different. Happy Hour Theater is a new Yolo County community theater company made up by the founders in Winters, Davis, and West Sacramento. And I already know they've already cast their shows, and I know they are pulling in some of the best actors in the region. And what they're doing is a completely different experience. The patron will be coming to the theater, have the option of buying an adult beverage, and then walking into the theater, and in 1 hour, they will see 5 10-minute one-act plays of a thought-provoking comedy, drama nature. And then when that hour is over, while they're refreshing their drinks, the actors are getting out of their costumes, and then everyone will re-adjourn into the theater, and they will have an hour discussion of the play, the productions, and this will be with the directors and the actors and the designers. And so it should be quite interesting. They're going to do 4 shows in the Black Box Theater, and then the 5th show they're going to do at the Palms Playhouse in Winters. And they're looking for a home. This is their first production, and they're going to use it at the Black Box. Some of their members have done the Panto before, so that's why they're familiar with it, and they know it works. And so we hope to see them have a great show in April. They'll be running in the first 2 weeks of April. And you can always go to our website to find more information about that. The Young Actors Workshop is an activity that we've had in the Black Box Theater off and on over the life of the theater. And it's usually contracted to a local community theater to put this workshop on. This time we're doing a 2-week workshop, but I will be leading it. And it will be for kids 9 to 14 years old. It will be 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. They'll bring their own lunch. We'll give them a snack. And it'll be for 2 weeks, and then on the final Saturday, we're actually going to do a showcase of what they've learned. And we'll be going through acting, but keeping in mind that there are about 20 different jobs in the theater, and acting is only one of them. We'll be going into all sorts of things about it, and not only voice and movement, but also, I'd like to point out that Kira is a member of a comedy troupe who does improvisation. And so I will be pulling her in to help with that aspect of showbiz. So we'll be going over all sorts of things and seeing what the kids are comfortable with, and I don't know what our showcase will be, but it could be a 30-minute play if they want to do that, or it could be an original work, or it could be skits. We'll find out, and so will the parents who will be able to see the fruit of their labor over the previous 2 weeks. And finally, again, you can go to westsacblackbox.org directly, or you can get to us through westsacfund.org, of course, through the Parks and Rec. And we look forward to any opportunity for anybody you know to come to the theater. There's a wide variety of things going on. And like Kira, I will be available to answer questions after Sam's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Okay, so moving on, we will touch on leisure interest classes. Now, again, these are the recreation classes held on-site at the community center as well as off-site at Sam Combs Park. This first class here is our urban jazz dance class. This class is taught by Heather and Holly Singletary, and it's Monday nights, dancers age 7 through 18, and it's also affiliated with a dance team called Blue Rose Dance Team. They've performed at multiple community special events, including our Intergalactic Expo, the Holiday Tree Lighting, Arts in the Heart Celebration, and they're one of our longest tenured classes that we do offer. Okay, moving on, we have our Young Rembrandts. This is our youth art classes, and this is actually contracted through a local franchise called Young Rembrandts. And they run classes in Parks and Recreation departments and elementary school sites all over the Sacramento area. And what's really cool about our class specifically is that we host it inside Gallery 1075. And so, as you can imagine, it's a very inspirational setting for an art class. And we'll be offering 2 sessions this summer. Okay, moving on. This is our Tippy Toe Ballet class. And this is actually one of our most popular classes. It's for young dancers age 3 through 6, and it's Wednesday nights, taught by Karina Schwartzel. And they have 2 recitals, usually one in the late spring, and one of them is in conjunction with our Arts in the Heart special event. Let's see, next we have the archery class. This is taught at, again, Sam Combs Park by Joshua Stark, who is a West Sacramento resident. And what's really cool about this class is that they actually use real bow and arrows, and it's outside Tuesday nights. And so, at first we were a little leery about the real bow and arrows part of it, as you can imagine, but we consulted with our insurance provider and got the go-ahead, and we've been doing it ever since. And this class runs March through, we take a break usually in the wintertime, so about March through October, and then we'll break over the winter months. And again, for those of you interested in becoming a contract instructor, please find a course proposal at westsacfund.org. We have had a long-standing martial arts class in the past, taught by Chuck and Cheryl Saxton, who were recently honored at the commission's meeting, I believe last year. And since then, we're looking to fill the vacancy in that class. So again, if any martial arts instructors, please send them to the website, please. Okay. So moving on to special events. This past weekend, again, we had our father-daughter dance. This dance is held usually toward the end of February every year. This is one of our most long-standing community events that we've had. It's been at multiple sites. Currently, it's held at the Galleria, and it's a great, heartwarming. You see fathers bonding with their daughters. They play games, dance. There's a full buffet, and it's a really, really special evening for everybody in attendance. Okay, this is our senior resource fair. This fair is specifically designed for local seniors in the area that bring services all together in one area where they can take advantage of. They can network with service providers, and we provide snacks, and it's a great day. This event is going to be on May 3rd this year. This is our Intergalactic Expo, and this is an event we've been running for, I believe, 5 years now. This is actually on Cinco de Mayo this year, so we're going to try to integrate some Mexican sort of. We could have mariachi bands, various performers, but it's all for a great cause. For those of you who are not familiar with this event, this benefits the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and every year we generate funds to help make a child's wish come true. For those of you who are not familiar with the expo, this is, think Star Wars, Star Trek, fantasy, and it draws regionally. We get people coming from the Bay Area, across the river in Sacramento. They all come to the Civic Center District to participate. This is our Kids Night Out event. This event is held monthly, usually with a different theme. It's a win-win. The parents drop off their children and they get a free evening. Usually it's a Friday night, and the kids get to come in and basically take over the entire community center. They play games, they have snacks, they watch a movie, there's arts and crafts. It's an all-hands-on-deck event. Kira usually works the events, and they can be quite the handful, as you can imagine. So, Kids Night Out. This is our Arts in the Heart event. This is the latest reincarnation of a Second Saturday event that we've done in the past. And this past year, we really wanted to commemorate the multicultural diversity of West Sacramento. We had a multicultural art show. We did arts and crafts activities. We actually had many of the commissioners come out and jury the Calavera painting contest, along with many of the council members were out as well. We had musical performances in the community room, the River City High School Syncopated Sea Monkeys Jazz Band. We had the musical orchestra, a local jazz group, Scrambled Eggs. Upstairs in the Black Box, we had dance performances. We had the ballet recital. We had folk dancers. SAC Dance Lab is pictured. We actually had the River City Dance Academy on Merkley. They also participated, and it was a great event. We really would like to invite you again to come out again this upcoming October. We'll again have another juror Calavera painting exhibition. And what I'd like to do is play a short recap video for you right here. Yeah. And pictured lastly, you saw the Sidewalk Chalk Alley where we had the Art Guild actually run that activity. It was a great day. We all had a blast, and we're looking forward to it again this year. And then our last slide here is the holiday tree lighting in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. This is our Winter Wonderland. Again, this is one of our most long-standing events that we've done here in the community. Really brings everyone together on West Capitol Avenue. This is an all-hands-on-deck event. Parks and Recreation, Public Works, the Fire Department, Police Department, City Manager's Office, of course, the Chamber of Commerce. And we decorate this massive Douglas fir outside, and we do a ceremonial countdown, and we flip the switch, and we light up the tree. And we have musical performances, we have dance performances, we have street vendors, of course, we have pictures with Santa Claus.
Yeah, the thing about the pictures with Santa Claus is that every child gets a free picture with Santa Claus.
Yeah,
And
free
it's a-
pictures with Santa.
Yeah.
So heartwarming event, really brings the community together. And I believe there's one more, there we go. Quick photos there. And then again, thank you very much for hearing our presentation. And at this point, we would like to open it up for any questions that you may have.
Sam, and all three of you, thank you so much for all you do to keep that space activated. I had a question about Gallery 1075. So you showed us what you had planned for this year. How far in advance do you have that space booked?
I'm very happy to say that we have almost all of 2020 booked as well, too.
Wow.
We have 2 more months available in the second half. If I could be wrong on this, off the top of my head, I think it's December and August next year are the only 2 months available. And I'm hoping those fill up soon. Yeah. So it's highly in demand.
Impressive.
In the gallery, is that the opportunity to exhibit there, is that weighted towards local West Sac residents?
We do ask when people apply if they have any ties to West Sacramento. I would say it's a preference, but not an eliminating factor. So it's just like, no one during my time here has ever been rejected from the application process. But it definitely is something that makes things like marketing the show or kind of getting other people interested in the show a little easier when we can say, hey, this artist is right in our backyard, come check them out, as opposed to maybe someone from the Bay Area who honestly just doesn't have the local following to like bring out 24 friends for an art reception. So honestly, just from a marketing standpoint, and it's just more beneficial to have a West Sacramento artist or a local, like across the street artist. I'm sorry, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Poe,
Yes, ma'am.
nice job.
Right?
No.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for your good work. The last time I was up in the control room, it looked like it had become a storage unit.
Ah.
So, thank you. It's awesome. Be sure and we should talk more about what you're doing in the community center. It's
I'll talk to anybody about it.
it's just, it's so encouraging. It's such a unique space. Not, the entire community center is a unique space and was well thought out and planned. But that black box is a treasure that had been sorely underutilized. So, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, a pleasure. It is a pleasure to work there, and people who work there shower me, and I wasn't around when it was built or designed, with compliments on its functionality. The acoustics are excellent compared to most black boxes.
It's an amazing space.
And it is exactly as it should be, flexible.
Yeah, so for the three of you and Connie, thank you so much for really activating that space and making it open and available. And I know you have your own website and social media, but are you having much luck coordinating with the city, with the main city website as well for getting that information out?
Yes, and we do put things on the city's calendar under the arts section, and
But I'm wondering about their social media platform. Do they share your stuff?
yes, they do.
Okay.
Yes, I've been retweeted and so forth, so,
The
yes.
MUI is good to you?
Yes, indeed.
Mui treats you right.
Yes.
Yeah, we could, I'd love to see more of the announcements on the West Sac Community Discussion page. I would love to see us talking about some of the things that are happening at the community center. All of you guys, thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think that's our job on this side, right, is maybe to help get that word
Yeah.
out.
You saw me look. Yeah.
Sam, may the 5th be with you, right?
Yeah,
It's a
is it
3/5.
supposed to be May the 4th?
Yeah. That Young Actors Workshop, my son did that for several years, and it was amazing. So I'm so pleased that you're bringing that back. Kira, I would love to see adults improv class. I don't know, how do you decide what classes happen? I know you said that you accept proposals for classes.
Yeah, again, that'd be two ways to do it. We could teach it on with staff that we have. For instance, Mike is on staff, and he has a knowledge and training in theater. And so we said, hey, instead of contracting out to teach this class, Mike has the expertise in-house, so let's go ahead and have him run the course. Kira is awesome at improv. We'll have to have that chat to find out if that's something she feels comfortable with instructing. And if not, then we can shoot the advertisement out and try to recruit improv artists to come in and teach a class for us.
It's such a valuable tool in learning to be a good listener, so even in business, improvisational skills are valuable. Yes, my dear.
Just a question on how you book traveling shows or tours. About 2 or 3 years ago, I saw the fabulous Savannah Fuentes do flamenco at the Black Box, and she's going to be performing April 1st at the Capitol, not Capitol Stage, but a Capitol something in this local area. She's from Seattle, flamenco. Do you reach out, do you book, rebook people like that, or?
Yeah, some of our traveling theater companies do rebook with us. For instance, Splinter Group Theater has been a reoccurring theme for 8 years now. But again, some of the times it's just isolated sort of event, and that's why we wanted to showcase what happened in the fall of 2018. There's no guarantee that these will be reoccurring, and we did want to highlight some of these performances. But in terms of reaching out, we have started a social media campaign and a marketing campaign, Mike and myself, to really push the theater. Mike is redoing all the marketing material, and of course the Facebook page, the website. I believe he started a Twitter account as well as a Instagram page. And so our goal and our aim is to really bring groups and theater companies in to use the space.
Well, sometimes when artists are touring regionally, it might reach out if they can book another night in a distant, in the Black Box. That might be financially feasible for them and something worth doing.
Elton John, there were.
Gaga, okay.
Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake. I have a question about scholarship opportunity. So in order to, all this really excellent developing programming that you're doing in the community center, is there potential for maybe some of our younger residents that may have financial challenges around participation? Is there scholarship available for kids?
Well, in regards to displaying their artwork in the Gallery 1075, there's no fee associated with that.
I'm thinking urban dance and a ballet and the Young Actors Theater. Is there a scholarship program?
We don't have one at this time.
Yeah, we don't have one at this time. It's actually something we're looking at and thinking about. We had been talking with the West Sacramento Art Guild. I think you heard them mention giving scholarships to youth in the community, and we're talking about partnerships like that. Also, we've just recently developed something at the rec center where they have an instructor volunteering their time, and then they're able to do youth scholarships with the proceeds from the class. And so that's something we're currently kind of looking at within the community center.
Something like this would qualify for a West Sacramento Foundation grant.
I was just thinking that. I know somebody that can help with that.
So you might want their grant cycle, our grant cycle will start in April.
Okay.
And that would be I know that Learning Ladder has been funded through the West Sacramento Foundation, so.
Wonderful idea.
It would be a good opportunity to
Yeah.
offer scholarship for kids.
What did you say, timeline or when?
I'll send you an email.
You're wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Schatzel.
The three commissioners and your comments sort of, I'm feeling something emotional. I'm trying to figure out a way to articulate for you. You've got kids programs, and then you've got flamenco dancers. They're a completely different customer group, completely different marketing approach. See, I'm not articulating as well. So, because we were talking about media, when I see West Sac Fun, I think gymnastics. I don't think painters. I don't think piano recitals. So when it comes to the advertising and promotion, there's different customers, there's different people that read it different ways. And to expand on the black box and do more, I mean, you're calling it with a Gallery 1075. In the old days, teen centers used to be teen centers, and they changed the name to like 3rd and B because teens wouldn't go to a teen center, like Gallery 1075, Art Gallery. They might go to Gallery 1075 first before they go to Gallery. So there's a different marketing niche approach that it sounds like you're thinking about, and the things the 3 commissioners said all sort of touched on that for me. Kids will go to one thing, but adults are looking for something very different. And so the marketing's different, the advertising's different. So I just wanted to share that, to give that some thought.
Well, I believe Mike, he streamlined the application, the Black Box Theater application. So as opposed to having to go to westsacfund.org,
Yeah.
there's now blackboxtheater.org, which saves you, 3 clicks?
Yes.
4 clicks?
Yeah.
And so to reach out to some of the adult groups, they can use
Yeah.
that site.
Yeah.
I can address how we're sometimes found. Google is a thing.
What?
And
What's that?
all you have to do is really theater West Sacramento, and you will find the black box.
There you go.
And I'm very happy about that. And I do get cold calls of people trying to buy tickets to shows, to any show. They want to see something. And so that's when I started to realize I need to make sure the website, at very least, always says what's coming, what we just had, and I call it recent successes. And so they're constantly aware of what the options are. So I keep that as fresh as possible, because people out of the blue just want to buy tickets. And they want to have a date night or whatever.
Sure.
They need a place to take the kids sometimes. So that has worked out really well. Every once in a while, they'll get the Sacramento Community Center and the Broadway series confused with our community center, but
Go
that's
figure.
okay. I'll talk to them,
Right.
and next thing you know, they're going, oh, well, thank you very much. I'll go get my tickets in Sacramento, but now I know you exist.
Right.
And the type of shows we do.
But I just remember, in Vacaville, they have the Vacaville Performing Arts Theater, and they have stuff where people come back, and they're Smothers Brothers, those kind of people come in. And then they've got the Irish Dance Club down the street, and they promote it differently, they advertise it differently, they talk to different people. And I'm feeling a sense that there's a split happening here, which is okay. It's okay, If we're going to bring in flamenco dancers, terrific. That's not the dance group on Merkley. All perfect, but a different customer base, I guess, is what I'm feeling.
Ultimately, I hope to have scheduling conflicts as our biggest, most common problem.
That's squad
So,
goals.
and
Yeah.
we're catering to all different types of interests, as you just said.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that they know that our programming is quite varied as well.
Any other questions, commissioners? Yes, go ahead.
Just a comment, Mike, nice to put a face to the name. So my husband was part of the Panto, he's been in it for a couple of years. I was happy to see all the advertisement around town about the Panto. I think the thing about the Panto is a lot of folks didn't know what it was. Like, what's that? And so I really like the banner over on Jefferson.
That's what I
Jefferson
learned
and
about.
Lake Washington, yes.
That was a great banner, and I'm pleased to hear that the piano is being utilized. And probably it should be listed as a feature of the black box, because other theater companies may not pick us because they don't know there's a piano there.
Yes, I'm revising, as Sam said, I'm revising the packet of information, and it is listed as it's one of the amenities.
Nice, yeah. That's all. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Before we let you go, Mr. Poe, what's your new Twitter and Instagram for the theater, so we
I
can all
thought you
share
might
it?
ask me that.
Thank you.
Twitter is, you don't get to pick your Twitter. It's based on your name. So they called it West Theater. That just happened. But of course, if you search for West Sacramento Black Box Theater or Black Box Theater, you will find us. The Instagram is West Sac BB Theater. And all of these theaters are ER at the end, by the way.
Thank you.
And then, of course, our main website through the city is westsacblackbox.org. And MUI, of course, knows where we are, too.
All right.
On Facebook.
Thanks so much. Oh, go ahead.
And thank you for the ER, the RE.
Right.
You know, American Theater.
It's a little precious.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We are at item number 8, consideration of resolution 19-2, setting the time and date for the 2019 regular meetings of the Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission.
I have a comment before your motion.
Please make a comment.
So we're now almost done with the longest Arts Commission meeting.
I know.
All of it extraordinary. Would have missed none of it.
Amazing.
Meeting since the commission began. Is it possible that since we're having 2 special meetings before our next regular meeting, that perhaps we should look at a more frequent meeting? Even if it were every other month, then we could plan and schedule for it.
Yeah, we have discussed that. My thought was that, let's see how many special meetings we wind up needing to inform a more frequent, permanently more frequent schedule maybe for next year, because as much as we like to try to, as much as we hope that these meetings will be timed to fit some of the input needs for projects, we always wind up still scheduling some extra meetings. So we already have now an additional one coming in April. Sometimes things start to taper off later in the year. So my thought was stick with this for now. Let's see what happens. And I think that it probably does warrant a more frequent meeting schedule.
We
for
used
at
to
least
meet
next year.
monthly,
Yeah.
which probably isn't necessary, but it would seem that with the timing of every other month, it would certainly create opportunity for some of the things to come into, like tonight, maybe something would have gotten bumped to month after next because, just a suggestion, but it's hard to keep track and to get a quorum for the special meetings, so.
So this is an action item. Do I read the resolution, or do we all read it and then vote upon these dates? What is appropriate?
I move that we approve the consideration, that we approve Resolution 19.2, setting the time and date for the 2019 regular meetings.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? All right, motion carried. We have our meeting dates, people. Please put them on your calendar so we can all promise each other to
Could
be
you
here.
remind us of the special dates that you already know about?
Oh, good idea.
We'll have to send out an email. I think the next one might be a special meeting in conjunction with the Parks Commission in April, based on the Economic Development staff's recommendations. So I think we were probably in April. Now, I was looking at the Parks Commission calendar because they already have a meeting scheduled in April. So April 2nd is their next regularly scheduled meeting. So if that worked for the commission, we could try to plan on that. But we could also send out an email confirming availability because we certainly want to make sure we have a quorum.
What day of the week is April 2nd?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I can never make a
That's not,
Tuesday.
that's not good.
That's my anniversary.
Okay. So that's okay. That's okay. We can throw out a couple of other dates. It depends on when the facility's available also. So we'll do some research and we'll send out some options for you.
With that, I believe our meeting is adjourned.
Do you need a motion?
Do we need a
We
motion
have
to
a
adjourn?
director's
There's a
report.
director's report.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's been a very long evening. I've loved every minute of it
Well, I
also.
don't know that I was
I will be very
super prepared,
brief.
so, okay.
I just do want to say, as the new Parks and Recreation Director, I'm really excited to be working with you on what is probably going to be a very busy year for this commission and for our staff. We have a number of projects that are already under construction, including, underway. We're working on Memorial Park and the ADA upgrades there. We are working on street frontage improvements at the Heritage Oaks Park site, trying to make way for the ropes course and hopefully some future grant funding to construct the rest of the park improvements. We are gearing up to complete our Parks and Open Space Master Plan. Our goal is to get that to council on March 20th. I'm pushing it back to April now. So when we have the special meeting in April, we will also be bringing that report to this commission. I also wanted to let you know that we've had a strong focus the past few years in a lot of grant applications and seeking grant funding to leverage resources. We do not have a lot of park impact fee funding to develop new park improvements, and so we've been aggressively targeting grant programs. I wanted to give you an update on a few of them. We, 2 years ago, well, in June of 2018, we were notified that we actually received grant funding from the state of California through their Habitat Conservation Fund program to purchase a piece of property. It was a remnant parcel from the Southport Levee project to serve as a trailhead. And we just closed on that property. And so we applied for another and the last round of funding through that same program to actually fund the construction of the trailhead improvements. If you haven't been out there recently, I go out there every couple of months, and I mean, now it's a stable environment, but it was changing so quickly to be able to see those improvements and see people already on the levee using the trail that's unpaved. It's exciting to think about if we could get that trail paved and have trailhead amenities that provide places for parking, for shade, for information and education on the Reclamation District activities. It would be pretty amazing. So we're aggressively targeting grant programs that will help us find funding for those types of projects. I also wanted to let you know that there was a recent offering for concept proposals through the Cultural, Community, and Natural Resource Grant Program. That was funded through Prop 68. We're starting to see a bunch of Prop 68 grant programs become available now. And that program was a less well-known program for me, but it included a variety of potential projects, museums, historic preservation, and athletic fields. And so we threw our hat in the ring for Bright Park for athletic fields there because we really are focused on trying to finish the Bright Park master plan and implementing the balance of improvements needed. So if we are invited to submit a formal application for that program, which has been offered by the Resources Agency, we will know this spring. And then that application process will begin. Today, we actually hosted State Parks in hosting one of their first Prop 68 statewide park development and community revitalization grant program. This is the $255 million grant program offering, phase 3. They'll have another phase later. The timing depends on when the state funds the balance of that program. This is a really big program for us. It's focused on parks. It's focused on new park development, on park and expansions and renovation of existing parks. The 2 criteria, you have to meet one of the 2 criteria. The location of the project has to be in an area where the median income is below $51,000 a year, or you have to be in an area where the ratio is less than 3 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. Bam. We have been trying to target Bright Park for this. It might not meet those criteria. Mm-hmm. It doesn't meet the park acreage criteria because it's an existing park. It looks like it might not meet the median income household. So we are going to be really thinking about what's in our Parks and Open Space Master Plan effort and all of the other related planning efforts to identify projects that meet those 2 criteria. No match is required. You can ask for up to $8.5 million, and we have some really great potential projects. So we're going to have to think very quickly and strategically, and the applications are due August 5th. And for this round, because they got a late start in promoting the program, all projects have to be completed by March of 2022. So it does not give you a lot of time to complete the project. So I will be bringing some items forward in the coming months to help position us to get a site ready for that grant application. I also wanted to report that the City Council had their strategic planning session in early February. For some of you that were able to attend the commission orientation meeting, you did receive a one-pager, a draft that highlighted the top priorities, policy and management priority items. Implementing the Parks and Open Space Master Plan was one of the top management priority actions, so we will be very focused on that this year, and it's perfect timing with all the grant funding that's available. There was discussion during the strategic planning session about our public art strategy and that needing to be updated because it is a very dated strategy. While that item didn't bubble up to make the top list, it's still something that we're very interested in working to update. And so we're going to be working on that, hopefully using the work that's being done in the Washington area as maybe a template for us to see how we can expand it. Most of the grant programs that are coming out for the park projects have art as an eligible component of the project. So it's really exciting to be able to include that and know that there's some funding there for those components. And they're perfect places to have that really accessible tactile art, that functional art that people can engage in. So that's something that's going to take us a little while to get going on, but I just wanted to let the commission know we recognize it's needed. We will be working on it. We're short some staff, and that leads to my next item, which is the business manager position. My former position is, we're currently recruiting for that now. And if you know of anybody that has really strong grant writing, grant administration, project management, park planning backgrounds, let them know. The position is open, available. You can access it on the city's website, and the closing for that position is March 15th. And so that concludes my update. Just want to thank you so much for your service, and we're really looking forward to working with you. We have a great team of people.
A quick question. Memorial Park is a city project.
It is.
And they're building structures.
There will be an art component, a fee, and that's one of the reasons why.
Is that 1% of the budget?
It's 1% of the total construction cost, so it doesn't include all the soft costs.
Right.
But the construction cost, yes, absolutely.
So we'll have funding from the Memorial Park project to come into our public art fund, and it's not necessarily required that we spend that money at the location.
I don't think so. That's what we've been talking about, because it is it would be good to have an updated strategy that helps us identify where we want to locate our investment in art, and whether or not you want to pool resources to fund something maybe of a larger scale in a specified location, or if you want to have it on site as part of that project. And so in the discussions with the art consultants who presented to you this evening, we talked a little bit about the nexus studies needed for that type of strategy. So I just have to refamiliarize myself with our current public art strategy and dig a little deeper.
Like 3 sentences, so.
Yeah. So, but that's a really good question, and it's something that we've started to discuss. We don't have any concepts right now for the Memorial Park site, but there will be funding made available as part of that project.
And do you know what that is?
I don't. I don't. I can, but I would have that for you at our next meeting. We can provide an update. One of the things we're also working on doing is updating our account balance so that we can report out on that on a semi-regular basis.
Great.
I want to congratulate you on your promotion as business manager. I've always enjoyed your reports. I have a few questions, as always. I visited the poetry installation on E Street today, and who made the decision on the line scans of the poem? Did the poet do that? Do you know?
I don't know. I know that that process was underway right when I started working back for the city. So I don't remember. I don't know if any other Arts Commission members may have been part of that process, or I don't know, but.
It's probably a KDJ question.
Yeah.
It is a KDJ, and I missed her. I should have asked her, and I didn't know. Do you know when the celebration is of that?
No, but thank you for bringing that up, because we had a date scheduled in March, and it's being rescheduled, and we do not have a new date yet. But I will make sure that this commission is made aware of it well in advance, so that you can plan to attend, hopefully.
And point of order, Madam Chairman, I don't recall a vote being taken on the minutes. We decided they needed corrected, but are we going to vote to accept them as corrected?
Do we not vote to accept them as corrected?
I moved as amended.
But then a vote wasn't taken.
I think it was.
It was? Where was
We
I?
have
Was I here all
minutes to
night?
look at?
I think there were no nays. I think maybe we may have skipped the one step of all those in favor, but
So we'll
everybody
go-
nodded their heads yes. So if you want to go back and just to, for the record, to make that a more formal action, you can certainly do that.
So we had a motion to accept those minutes as amended. I don't know who, Denise
Anybody
made the
second?
motion. And Dawn seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. And are we ready for a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I so move.
Do we need a second? In favor, say aye. All right. Thank you very much, and bam. And